Chapter 2963, Supreme Divine Master, Expensive, Too Expensive. Jian Wushuang secretly praised. However, he also knew that a standard magic weapon of the third grade superior holy treasure level would be much more powerful than an ordinary standard magic weapon of the third grade holy treasure level. The Divine Earth Fruit has given me 50 million sacred elixirs at one go. In addition to the reward I got from completing the 3-star mission with the Shuedong King and the reward I got after killing the 3 Saint Shadows, I have a lot of sacred elixirs. Even if I have to leave 15 million sacred elixirs for the middle 4 forms of the reincarnation sword formation, I still have a lot left. If you want to buy the best. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up and he immediately looked at the golden light figure in front of him. Sir Qian, I've decided to buy a standard magic weapon of the third grade superior holy treasure level with 1,500,000 sacred elixirs each. I want 18 of them. 18 of them means 27 million sacred elixirs. In addition to the 2 million you used to buy the divine power fruit, you still have 21 million sacred elixirs, Sir Qian said. I also need some treasures that are useful for comprehending the rules of spacetime and reincarnation, which can help me to comprehend them, Jian Wushuang said. He already had 3 heaven sealing maps, which had been very helpful to him in comprehending the rules. However, the heaven sealing maps only allowed him to use the profound mysteries of heaven and earth to deduce and comprehend faster. However, there were some special treasures in heaven and earth that consumed energy, which was very helpful in comprehending the rules. The divine earth fruit, for example, belonged to such a treasure, but it was obviously of a higher level. Lord Tianxua quickly organized an inventory and handed it to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang carefully browsed through it and selected a few treasures. In this way he spent another 4 million sacred elixirs, leaving only 17 million sacred elixirs. He planned to keep the 17 million sacred elixirs until he became an Earth-level member. You can wait in this nest for a while. The things you want and the remaining sacred elixirs will be delivered to you in 10 days, Lord Tianxua said. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, looking forward to it. Next, it was time for Shuedong King to choose the treasures. Shuedong King could also get 50 million sacred elixirs, so he had to make full use of them. In the end, he also chose several treasures and used 2 secret skills, spending nearly 40 million sacred elixirs. It could be said that they had squandered a lot of their sacred elixirs. After selecting the sacred elixirs, they waited quietly in the nest. Sure enough, on the 5th day someone delivered the things they had bought to them. Then they went to find a place to cultivate in seclusion. In the secret chamber, Jian Wushuang sat quietly with his legs crossed. In front of him were purple fruits that emitted a delicate fragrance. The fruit was not big, only the size of an infant's fist. However, it contained a lot of pure divine power. Is this the divine power fruit? Looking at the purple fruits in front of him, Jian Wushuang's eyes shone with a strange light. After hesitating for a long time, he finally reached out his hand, grabbed one of the divine power fruits and swallowed it. The divine power fruit melted as soon as it entered Jian Wushuang's stomach and turned into a vast amount of pure divine power that flowed in his body. There was too much divine power and it was too vast. Indeed, just as Lord Tianxua said, an earth-level divine power fruit has a vast amount of pure divine power. Consuming 1 fruit is equivalent to absorbing 3 million sacred elixirs. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled with surprise. He immediately began to refine the divine power fruit. In less than an hour, the pure power contained in the divine power fruit had been completely absorbed by him. He could clearly sense that the divine power in his body had increased by a level compared to before. At this speed, I'm afraid that I need more than a few divine power fruits before the accumulation of divine power in my body reaches its peak. Jian Wushuang was a little excited and immediately began to consume the remaining divine power fruits. 125. Jian Wushuang had spent 2 million sacred elixirs to exchange for 20 divine power fruits from Lord Tianxua. However, in reality he did not need 20 divine power fruits at all. Just by consuming the 7th divine power fruit, Jian Wushuang's divine power had exceeded his limit and he had broken through the bottleneck. Yes, Jian Wushuang had broken through. He had broken through from an advanced divine master to a peak divine master. This step was only a small realm, but it still greatly improved Jian Wushuang's strength. Jian Wushuang stood proudly on a vast sea, and in front of him was a small island that was only a few hundred miles in size. Looking at the island, Jian Wushuang's body began to surge with divine power. He did not use any swordsmanship or any techniques. He just formed a palm with one hand and clapped it forward. The palm contained divine power that had reached the level of a peak great divine master. Boom! The sky and earth changed color. The palm was infinitely enlarged and covered the entire island. As the palm descended, the small island in the middle of the sea, which was only a few hundred miles wide, was crushed. The earth trembled and countless waves were swept up crazily. In the blink of an eye, the island had disappeared. Such power! Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining. He did not use any means at all. He just relied on divine power to easily crush the island in front of him. This was impossible before he made the breakthrough. In terms of the strength of my divine power, I'm now 6 or 7 times stronger than an advanced great divine master. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Although the increase of 6 or 7 times might not necessarily mean that Jian Wushuang's overall strength had also increased by 6 or 7 times, his battle strength had greatly increased. At this moment, Jian Wushuang moved his mind. Swish, 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 swish. Streaks of gray streamers rushed out. These gray streamers shuttled rapidly in the void. It was impossible to see the specific trajectory of their convergence with the naked eye. However, under Jian Wushuang's control, in just a moment, the streaks of gray streamers floated in front of him and stopped. These streams of gray light were actually gray magic swords. Each of these gray magic swords was only about 2 feet long. The edges of the swords were very thin, but they contained the power of reincarnation and the aura of a treasure. They were extremely powerful. There was a faint gray airflow around the swords. It felt like a gray fog. Chapter 2964. Strength skyrocketed. This gray magic sword was called the Star Luo sword. It was a 3rd-grade superior holy treasure-grade magic weapon that Jian Wushuang had exchanged for 1.5 million sacred elixirs from Lord Tianshou. A total of 18 Star Luo swords floated in front of Jian Wushuang. In order to control 18 superior holy treasures at the same time, one had to have a very strong soul. Secondly, controlling 18 3rd-grade superior holy treasures and controlling 18 superior holy treasures were 2 completely different things in terms of strength consumption. Even if an ordinary immortal saint wanted to control 18 superior 3rd-grade holy treasures at the same time, his divine power would be exhausted in 2 or 3 moves. Although Jian Wushuang was only a divine master, his divine power was too vast. It was far beyond what the immortal saint could compare with. Controlling 18 superior 3rd-grade holy treasures at the same time did not pose too much pressure to him. It's also the 4th sword formation of the Samsara sword formation. I'd like to see the difference between using 18 3rd-grade superior holy treasures and 18 superior heavenly treasures. With a hint of curiosity, Jian Wushuang immediately controlled the 18 Star Luo swords in front of him and combined them at the fastest speed. The 18 Star Luo swords combined to form a Qian divine sword that was less than 2 meters long. The Qian divine sword was filled with the power of the law of reincarnation. Even before it flew out, its terrifying aura alone was enough to make an ordinary immortal saint despair. Go! Jian Wushuang pointed at it from afar. The Qian divine sword turned into a Qian arc light and instantly rushed out. Whoosh! The arc light traveled over 10,000 meters and mercilessly lifted up 2 huge waves wherever it passed. However, the Qian arc light was unstoppable and destroyed everything in front of it. The ear-piercing sound of the void-piercing explosion was even louder. In the end, the green arc light did not directly hit the material body. It only penetrated the void. The specific power had not been fully displayed, but Jian Wushuang already had a vague idea of what it was. If my senses are correct, using 18 superior 3rd-grade holy treasures to perform a move of the Samsara sword formation, Ice and Snow World, is about 10 times more powerful than using superior heavenly treasures previously. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a strange luster. More than 10 times. Just because he changed his magic weapon. The power is too strong. Jian Wushuang was extremely excited. When I fought with the Star Sea Saint, I used all my trump cards and fully performed the Samsara sword formation. However, the Samsara sword formation must be a sword formation, and it must be performed by my own standard magic weapon. I guided the supreme sword essence of the Blood Mountain sword, but I couldn't increase the power of the Samsara sword formation, so the power of the Samsara sword formation couldn't threaten the Star Sea Saint. But it's different now. With these 18 Star Luo swords, the power of the 4th level of the reincarnation sword formation will increase by more than 10 times. It won't be weaker than the strongest swordsmanship I use when I fully guide the sword essence. In other words, I should be able to fight Star Sea Saint head-on with this reincarnation sword formation alone. Once I guide the sword essence to fight Star Sea Saint head-on, Star Sea Saint will definitely be no match for me. And this is before my breakthrough. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists tightly. Before his breakthrough, He was confident that he could defeat the Star Sea Saint with the help of the sword formation formed by the 18-star Luo swords combined with his swordsmanship. However, now that he had reached the peak Great Divine Master level and his overall strength had improved a lot, his battle strength should have far surpassed the Star Sea Saint. I've made a breakthrough in my realm and tested the power of the Star Luo sword. My next target is the 5th sword formation of the Samsara sword formation. To get this heavy sword formation, I must first become an Earth-level member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Jian Wushuang muttered. The authority of an Earth-level member was much higher than that of an ordinary member. But to become an Earth-level member, one must first have a certain level of strength. Secondly, one must complete 3 ordinary level 3-star missions alone. Jian Wushuang knew this, so he immediately went to the secret nest number 385. The secret nest was still quite deserted, and few people came here on weekdays. As for Shuedong King, who had been staying with Jian Wushuang all this time, after he exchanged the sacred elixir for treasures from Lord Tianshou, he went into seclusion and never came out, so Jian Wushuang naturally would not disturb him. Moreover, Jian Wushuang was doing a promotion mission, which required him to complete alone. It was useless even with Shuedong King. Jian Wushuang went directly to the counter. Elder Qiu, give me a list of tasks, Jian Wushuang said. Elder Qiu raised his head and glanced at Jian Wushuang, then threw him a token. After taking the token, Jian Wushuang glanced at it briefly, then slowly shook his head. There were not many missions recorded in the token. There were only 2 3-star missions. Although they were 3-star missions, they did not put any pressure on Jian Wushuang at the moment. Moreover, the rewards for these 2 missions were average. It did not interest Jian Wushuang at all. Elder Qiu, can you give me a more detailed list of missions, preferably 3-star missions or above? It doesn't matter if they are not from this territory, Jian Wushuang said. There are indeed only 2 3-star missions around this nest. However, there are many 3-star missions outside this territory. You can see for yourself. Elder Qiu took out a brand new token and handed it to Jian Wushuang. There were many missions recorded on this token. There were more than 200 ordinary 3-star missions. There were enough missions for Jian Wushuang to select. The only regret was that these 3-star missions were far away from the nest. Jian Wushuang had to go through the wormhole inside the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to get there. Moreover, the wormhole was not open for free, he had to pay a big price for it. These missions. Jian Wushuang carefully browsed through the missions in the token and soon locked onto 3 of them. Just these 3 missions, Jian Wushuang said and returned the token to Elder Qiu. At the same time, he explained the 3 3-star missions he had taken. One person taking 3 missions at the same time and they are all 3-star missions? Marquis Jian, what do you want to do? Elder Qiu asked in a deep voice. Nothing. I just think it's troublesome, so I want to complete all 3 promotion missions at the same time, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Promotion mission? You mean you want to complete all 3 missions alone? Elder Qiu immediately looked over. Chapter 2965, Promotion Mission, yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. After hearing Jian Wushuang's answer, Elder Qiu's expression became strange. Elder Qiu was an immortal saint himself. He could tell at a glance that Jian Wushuang was only a divine master. As for the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, even if it was an ordinary 3-star mission, it had to be at least a top-notch false saint. Could it be that this divine master had the battle strength of a first-rate false saint? Of course, Elder Qiu had some doubts in his heart. But what he did not know was that Jian Wushuang's battle strength was far more than that of a false saint. Although he was puzzled, Elder Qiu would not ask too much, he just followed the normal procedure and said, Heavenly Sword Marquis, there's something you have to remember. It's one thing to complete the promotion mission alone on the way, but in the process of the mission, you need to use the mirror token to record the whole process. Use the mirror token to record the whole process? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Yes, only in this way can the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance determine whether you really completed the promotion mission alone. For example, if your mission is to kill an expert, you don't have to record anything else, but you have to use the mirror token to record the whole process of the battle between you and the expert, said Elder Qiu. Of course, you don't have to worry about it. The images recorded by the mirror spiritual talisman are top secret. No matter what you did or how you did it, no one will know about it. The only thing we need to know is whether you completed the task alone. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He could barely accept the fact that it was just a chance of a fierce battle. After all, it was just an ordinary 3-star mission, so it should not pose much of a threat to him now. He did not need to use all his strength to expose his many trump cards. Go. Elder Qiu waved his hand. Jian Wushuang immediately set off. The Green River Realm was an area far away from the number 385 nest in the Endless Territory. Jian Wushuang had paid a price to come here through the wormhole of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. In an ancient sect, a majestic sword light mercilessly slashed down. The sect-protecting formation that had protected the sect for a long time was split in half by the sword light, and the power of the divine power spread wildly. After that, a human figure charged into this sect like lightning. Who is it that can break into my Green River Palace? You're courting death. Kill him. The entire Green River Palace instantly stirred up, and a large number of Green River Palace experts rushed out, including the 5 immortal saints within the Green River Palace. Amongst these 5 immortal saints, one was a peak false saint. The 5 of them joined hands and blocked in front of that human figure. But in the end, that human figure only slashed out with a tyrannical sword. That sword easily crushed the void, crushing everything. It also crushed the combined attack of the 5 immortal saints from the Green River Palace. The 5 immortal saints from the Green River Palace were sent flying on the spot. 2 of them even spat out fresh blood. The figure did not have any obstacles. He broke into the inner part of Green River Palace and into the many cultivators under the command of Green River Palace. Finally, he found a brown-haired demonic youth in the crowd. This brown-haired demonic youth was Jian Wushuang's target. "It's you." Killing intent flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. He swung his blood mountain sword like an electric arc and chopped off the head of the demonic youth. After doing all this, Jian Wushuang soared into the sky and left. No one from the Green River Palace dared to stop him. Among the 3 3-star missions that Jian Wushuang had received, the first mission was to kill a great divine master under the protection of the Green River Palace. Mission completed. In the dark and cold void. Phew. A sorry figure with his life the fastest speed in that crazy escape. This figure was a young man with fair skin and a thin and weak figure. The aura that this young man exuded was quite tyrannical. He was a peak false saint and his combat strength was not ordinary. However, at this moment he was being hunted like a stray dog. It was Jian Wushuang who was chasing him. How can I be found when I have hidden in this place? And the person who found me, obviously just a deity, but combat strength, how can be so strong? The young man's face was aghast and his heart was full of shock. He has been hiding here for a long time and no one has found him for so many years, but today not only has someone found him, but the god who found him. It was terrible. It was indeed terrifying. He was clearly only at the deity realm, but the moment he attacked, he brought along endless sword intent and unleashed a shocking sword attack that crushed the young man. The second sword attack had severely injured the young man. If it were not for the fact that his life-saving methods were not bad, he would have died under the second sword attack. But now, although he was still alive, he was being pursued by that divine master. He's faster than me? No. The young man was completely terrified. As Jian Wushuang closed the distance between them, his fear gradually turned into despair. In the end, Jian Wushuang caught up with him and attacked again. This time, Jian Wushuang used the Samsara Sword formation. The terrifying Samsara Sword formation shattered the young man's divine body with just one attack. The second task was completed. It was a vast and boundless arena. This arena was more than enough for 2 powerful true saints to fight on. There were countless spectators around the arena. On the arena, Jian Wushuang, who was wearing a gray robe and a gray mask, pointed his long sword and easily defeated a peak divine master in front of him. Heavenly Sword Marquis, the 88th victory. As the host announced the result, the spectators around the ring burst into cheers. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Countless people were calling his name. However, Jian Wushuang's expression was extremely cold. Soon he saw his 89th opponent enter the ring. This opponent was also a divine master, but he was a rare invincible divine master. However, in the end, the invincible divine master still lost to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang easily won 89 battles, followed by the 90th and 100th battles. In less than 3 days, Jian Wushuang had won 100 battles. The third mission, to win 100 battles in the Star Battlefield, was also successfully completed. This mission was the easiest among the 3 3-star missions that Jian Wushuang had received, but the reward was not low. Chapter 2966, Earth-Level Members Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, Nest Number 385. Wearing a mysterious gray mask, Jian Wushuang came to the old man again. Hand in the task. Jian Wushuang took out his identity token and the mirror token that had recorded 3 tasks. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you've completed all 3 tasks? And all of them alone? Elder Chiu looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. The The process of the task is in the mirror token. Jian Wushuang said calmly. I'm not qualified to look at the mirror token. How about this, you wait here for a while. I'll pass the mirror token to the high-level experts of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to make a judgment, Elder Qiu said. How long will it take? Jian Wushuang asked. Not long, 3 days at most, Elder Qiu said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He was not in a hurry for 3 days. Jian Wushuang immediately waited in the nest. 3 days passed quickly and the results came out. Heavenly Sword Marquis, this is your new identity token. From today on, you are an Earth-level member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and you have the authority of an Earth-level member. Elder Qiu handed an identity token to Jian Wushuang. His expression was somewhat humble. What a joke. A divine master could become an Earth-level member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Even a fool would know how great this divine master was. How could a mere person in charge of a secret lair compare to such a task? After receiving the identity token, Jian Wushuang was quite delighted. He immediately headed straight for the treasure pavilion. Watching Jian Wushuang leave, Elder Qiu could not help but sigh. A divine master can complete 3 ordinary 3-star missions alone and become an Earth-level member. Heavenly Sword Marquis is definitely one of the top super geniuses in the divine beginning world. He is definitely qualified to enter the 3 palaces and become the core genius disciple of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. But the strange thing is, even though he is so talented, why is there no instruction from above? Elder Qiu thought it was a little strange. The mirror token that Jian Wushuang used to complete the mission was judged by the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. If Jian Wushuang could complete 3 3-star missions alone, even the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance would be eager to recruit such a super genius. However, the result he got was only that Jian Wushuang could become an Earth-level member without any instructions. It was as if the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance did not care about such a super genius at all. Maybe there are other factors. Elder Qiu sighed and did not think much about it. The golden light figure in Treasure Pavilion, which was Lord Tianxua, gathered in front of Jian Wushuang. Lord Tianxua. Jian Wushuang bowed respectfully. Heavenly Sword Marquis, congratulations on becoming an Earth-level member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. You can also enjoy the authority of an Earth-level member here, Lord Tianxua said. Lord Tianxua, I want the 4 forms of the Samsara sword formation that I mentioned to you before, Jian Wushuang said directly. Yes, the 4 forms of the sword formation require 15 million Saint Pills with the privilege of being an Earth-level member, Lord Tianxua said. Jian Wushuang was prepared and immediately took out an interspatial ring. Lord Tianxua took the interspatial ring, scanned it with his consciousness and nodded slightly. Wait here. Someone will deliver the 4 forms of the sword formation to you in 10 days. Thank you, Jian Wushuang thanked him, but his expression suddenly changed. He remembered the origin of Lord Tianxua. Lord Tianxua was the only weapon spirit in the treasure pavilion of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. He was knowledgeable and could identify any treasure as quickly as possible. He had obtained a special treasure a long time ago, but he had never appraised it. Sir Tianxua, I have a treasure here. I hope you can appraise it, Jian Wushuang said. Take it out. Sir Tianxua appeared very calm. Jian Wushuang flipped his palm, and a baby-sized black exotic beast statue covered in the power of destruction rules appeared in his hand. Jian Wushuang had obtained this black exotic beast statue in the secret realm of the Pill Sun Sacred World. He had obtained 3 precious treasures including the cloud pattern armor. He had used the token that contained teleportation to save his life in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Only the black beast statue remained. Jian Wushuang had always thought that the black beast statue was extraordinary, but he did not know what it was. Now Jian Wushuang brought the black beast statue to Lord Tianxua. Lord Tianxua glanced at the black beast statue with a strange look in his eyes. You can get such a treasure? Lord Tianxia's voice was obviously a little surprised. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang understood that this treasure was indeed extraordinary. Otherwise Lord Tianxua would not have said so. Lord Tianxua, this treasure. Jian Wushuang had just opened his mouth. This treasure has some history. Under normal circumstances, a little guy like you would not have had the chance to come into contact with such a treasure. It's also a fortuitous opportunity for you to get it. Lord Tianxua praised, I can help you appraise this statue, but the cost of appraising it is relatively high. How much? Jian Wushuang asked. 5 million sacred elixirs. Lord Tianxua stretched out 5 fingers. Jian Wushuang was shocked. 5 million sacred elixirs just to appraise this treasure? When appraising the earth divine fruit, Lord Tianxua only said that he would take 500,000 sacred elixirs. The difference between 500,000 and 5 million was 10 times. Could it be that the real value of the statue was 10 times higher than that of the earth divine fruit? How about it? Do you want me to appraise it for you? Lord Qianshou looked at him. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. 5 million sacred elixirs was not a big number for him. He wanted to know what the black beast statue was. Sir Qianshua, this is 5 million sacred elixirs. Jian Wushuang took out an interspatial ring again. This time he completed 3 3-star missions in one go and received a lot of rewards. In addition to the remaining sacred elixirs, he still had a lot of them, so he could easily take out 5 million sacred elixirs. After taking the interspatial ring, Sir Qianshua said directly, "This black beast statue originated from a top special life form in the beginning divine world, the Destruction Beast God." Destruction Beast God? Jian Wushuang was surprised. It has been many years since the divine beginning world was born. During this long time, countless creatures have been born. Chapter 2967. Destruction Beast God Statue. Among the endless creatures, there are all kinds of bloodlines and races. In the absolute beginning divine realm, the 4 divine races are the most famous. They can be called the 4 most powerful races with very strong bloodlines. However, although the bloodlines of the 4 divine races are strong, they are still made up of a great race. In the absolute beginning divine realm, the special life forms have the highest bloodlines or life levels, Lord Qianshua said. Jian Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. It was not the first time he had heard of a special life form. What is special about a special life form? It is unique between heaven and earth. Their innate talent cannot be matched by ordinary bloodlines. Even the most ordinary special life form can be dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than human cultivators if they are in the same realm as humans. And among these unique creatures there are some famous ones. Among them is the Destruction Beast God. This Destruction Beast God was born very early in the absolute beginning divine realm. It has already fallen. Although it has fallen, no one dares to forget how terrifying it is. The Destruction Beast God was born for destruction. It is a favored child of the law of destruction. Since it was born, it had an extremely high level of understanding of the law of destruction. Moreover, this kind of understanding makes it so that it doesn't need to cultivate. As it grows, it will naturally improve. The Destruction Beast God can completely comprehend the destruction rules as soon as it reaches adulthood and become the master of the destruction rules, Sir Qianshua said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was shocked. He could completely comprehend a complete destruction rule as soon as he reached adulthood and become the master of the destruction rules? This talent? No wonder it can be called the master of the destruction rules, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. After all, he was a perfect chaotic creature, and his life level was far above that of many special creatures. However, even he did not have the ability to become a rule master when he reached adulthood. He also needed to cultivate and improve himself slowly. The natural talent of the Destruction Beast God was simply terrifying. Many years ago, the Destruction Beast God roamed the divine beginning world with astonishing combat strength and left a great reputation. However, because it was too talented in the destruction rules, some experts refined treasures based on its divine body and even left behind its corpse, scales, and bones. These treasures all contain the destruction rules. At the same time, there are people who refine special treasures to comprehend the destruction rules, such as stone tablets and statues, which are imitated from the divine body of the Destruction Beast God. However, they can only imitate its actions but not its God. The statue you are taking out is imitated by the Destruction Beast God. The charm contained in it is probably less than 1,000th of that of the Destruction Beast God at its peak, Sir Qianshua said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood and frowned. It's only 1,000th of its charm, but it still contains such a strong power of destruction rules? Of course it's strong. Lord Qianshua smiled faintly. The Destruction Beast God at its peak is on par with the top super-existences in the divine beginning world. It can be said to be one of the strongest people in the divine beginning world. Even if it's only 1,000th of its charm, it's enough for many powerful immortal saints to study it for a long time. The statue in your hand is definitely a once-in-lifetime treasure for cultivators who have comprehended the destruction rules. The earth divine fruit is much more useful for cultivators who have comprehended the earth rules, so its value is naturally more shocking. Jian Wushuang was delighted. He knew that the black beast statue was extraordinary. Now it seemed that it was indeed so. I didn't expect that the black beast statue would be the most precious of the 3 special treasures from the secret realm, Jian Wushuang murmured. Heavenly Sword Marquis, the Destruction Beast God statue should be of little use to you. You can choose to sell it to me. As for its value, I can give you 500 million sacred elixirs with your authority as an Earth-level member. How about that? Lord Qianshou looked over. 500 million. Jian Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. The divine earth fruit had only sold for 100 million sacred elixirs, and in the end, it was split equally between him and Shuedong King. However, the destruction beast god statue could sell for 500 million sacred elixirs. He owned 500 million sacred elixirs alone. There's no rush for this statue. Jian Wushuang shook his head. I'm still weak and I've already obtained most of the resources I need. I want exchange for this statue for the time being. When I need to exchange for sacred elixirs, it's not too late for me to do so. In that case I won't force you. Go. Lord Qianshou waved his hand. Jian Wushuang bowed respectfully to Lord Qianshou, then turned and left. After coming out of the secret nest, Jian Wushuang was still quite excited. With the destruction beast god statue worth 500 million sacred elixirs, I have a huge amount of money in my hands. I must use this money in the most reasonable way to maximize its value. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. There's no rush. I just reached the realm of peak Great Divine Master not long ago, and now I have the four-layered sword formation of the Samsara sword formation. Let's see the power of the four-layered sword formation first. Jian Wushuang immediately found a hidden void. Jian Wushuang temporarily opened a cave mansion in the void, and then he began to comprehend the fifth-layered Samsara sword formation. The first level of the Samsara sword formation was called the Horn of Heaven, the second level of World Sink, the third level of Samsara Drunk, and the fourth level of Ice and Snow World. The fifth level of the sword formation was called Saint Slaying. Jian Wushuang did not know why Sword Master Tongxin named the fifth level of the sword formation. However, one thing was that the power of the fifth level of the sword formation was much stronger than the fourth level of the sword formation. It was a completely different concept, the difference between heaven and earth. Of course, the power of the fifth sword formation was so strong that it was naturally more complicated and difficult to comprehend. Most importantly, it had a higher requirement for the comprehension of the Samsara rule. After Jian Wushuang comprehended it, he soon learned that if he wanted to truly use the fifth sword formation, his comprehension of the Samsara rule had to be at least at the true saint level. A true saint was not an ordinary false saint. Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the space-time rule and the reincarnation rule was only at the false saint level. He had just reached the true saint level, but there was still a big gap between him and a true saint. Chapter 2968, 80 years. I didn't expect the fifth sword formation to have such a high requirement for the reincarnation rule. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. His control of the fourth level of the reincarnation sword formation, the world of ice and snow, had long been perfect, so he thought he should be able to control the fifth sword formation. But in the end he was still far from comprehending the Samsara rules. Even though he had already obtained the fourth level of the sword formation, his comprehension of the Samsara rules did not meet the requirements and he could not use it. There's no rush. I have nothing to do now anyway. At most, I'll go into seclusion for a period of time. When my comprehension of the Samsara rules reaches the true saint level and meets the requirements, it won't be too late for me to come out of seclusion. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a light, but he had already made up his mind. On the same day he immediately went to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to meet Sir Qianshua. He spent a lot of sacred elixirs in exchange for a lot of treasures from the treasure pavilion that were of great help in comprehending the Samsara rules. After that he began his seclusion. This time he was obviously not going to stop until he displayed the fifth level of the Samsara sword formation. His comprehension ability was extremely high, and he had a total of 3 heaven-sealing diagrams in his hands. As long as he calmed his heart to comprehend, his comprehension of the laws would increase tremendously. Now that he had exchanged for a lot of consumable treasures from the treasure pavilion to improve his comprehension of the Samsara laws, his improvement speed was naturally faster and more frightening. The further he went in comprehending the rules, the more difficult it became. Especially after reaching the level of the immortal saint, it was extremely difficult to make even a small amount of progress, let alone a big improvement. For ordinary cultivators, even some genius experts, it would definitely take a long time to raise the comprehension of a rule from the ordinary false saint level to the true saint level. It would take at least thousands of years, at most tens of thousands of years. However, Jian Wushuang, it did not take that long. In just 80 years, Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the reincarnation rule had reached the true saint level as he wished. This was because during these 80 years, he had spent a lot of energy to improve his divine power and his comprehension of the space-time rule and sword principle. Otherwise, it would not have taken him 80 years. Jian Wushuang stood calmly in the void. In front of him was a vast mountain range. With a slight wave of his hand, streams of cyan light immediately rose up. These cyan lights were stargaze swords, which had reached the level of a top-grade third-grade holy treasure. A total of 18 stargaze swords were lined up side by side. Condense. As Jian Wushuang uttered the word, the 18 stargaze swords immediately condensed together at the fastest speed. In an instant, an earth-shaking rumble sounded, and a huge spiral tunnel that emitted the power of endless reincarnation rules appeared between heaven and earth. This spiral tunnel was like the reincarnation tunnel that led to reincarnation. It was mysterious, vast, and unfathomable. However, right at this reincarnation tunnel, a dazzling green light suddenly shot out. This green light was extremely long, and it brought along a gigantic green tail. It was at least tens of meters long, but its volume was not big. The green light was extremely fast, so fast that it was inconceivable. In the blink of an eye, it had penetrated through the void in front of it, and finally, it struck a towering mountain in the distance. Bang! A hole was immediately pierced through the middle of the mountain, but the cyan lights came out from the other end of the mountain and continued to hit the next mountain. Bang! 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 A series of explosions sounded. The bright cyan light pierced through a total of 8 giant mountains in an instant, and its power slowly dissipated. Jian Wushuang, who had seen all of this, had an unprecedented glint in his eyes. As expected, the 5th level of the sword formation is much stronger than the 4th level. It's worth the 80 years of hard work I put in to improve the reincarnation rule. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, feeling extremely excited. The power of the 4th level of the reincarnation sword formation, the world of ice and snow, was already extraordinary. It was comparable to the most powerful absolute arts created by many peak false saints. As for the 5th level of the sword formation, the Saint Slayer, its power was definitely more than 10 times that of the world of ice and snow, or even more. Without a doubt, the power of the 5th level of the sword formation was definitely comparable to the most powerful absolute arts created by true saints. In Jian Wushuang's opinion, the 5th level of the sword formation was even slightly stronger than the most powerful absolute arts created by the 1-star peak true saint Star Sea Saint who had fought with him before. It was slightly stronger. When my realm had not broken through and the reincarnation sword formation had not been greatly improved, I could face the Star Sea Saint head-on. Now that my realm has broken through, the key point is that the 18 underworld blood divine swords in the reincarnation sword formation have all been replaced by the Star Luo sword. Their power has soared. Previously I could only use the 4th sword formation, but now I can use the 5th sword formation. In addition, over the past 80 years I have improved in the rules and sword principle. Who among the rank 1 true saints can stop me now? Let alone a rank 1 true saint, even if I were to encounter an ordinary rank 2 true saint, I'm afraid I can still defeat him now. A mere divine master was able to defeat a rank 2 true saint? This was simply inconceivable to others, but it was not impossible for Jian Wushuang, who was a perfect chaotic creature. Unfortunately, although my strength has improved a lot over the past 80 years and my divine power has reached the limit of a divine master, I have not been able to directly break through to the saint level. Jian Wushuang sighed quietly. After all, divine masters and immortal saints were 2 different concepts. Of course, Jian Wushuang was eager to break through. Previously, he had cultivated all the way because his comprehension of sword principle and rules far exceeded his own realm. Therefore, as long as he had accumulated his divine power to the limit, he could naturally break through. It had always been the case. But now that he had reached the limit of the divine master realm, he found that it was not the case. Now, although he had accumulated his divine power to the limit, he did not directly break through to the saint realm. It was not because he did not want to, but because he could not do it. If an ordinary cultivator's understanding of Tao and comprehension of Tao reached my level, he could easily break through to the saint realm. But I seem to be different. Now, whether it's my understanding of Tao, my comprehension of rules, or even all kinds of methods, I'm far better than an ordinary immortal saint, but I can't break through. I feel that I'm still lacking something, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. He knew that what he lacked was not only an opportunity but also something else. In other words, he still had room for improvement. Chapter 2969, Shuedong King's Good Friend. No rush, take your time, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. It had been less than 300 years since he was born. It was incredible that he had reached the limit of a divine master in such a short period of time. The immortal saint was so much stronger than a divine master. How could he break through so easily? Jian Wushuang was also very patient. However, after controlling the 5th level of the Samsara sword formation, Jian Wushuang did not plan to continue his closed-door cultivation. "Let's go and do the mission," Jian Wushuang muttered. Based on his own judgment, his current battle strength should be comparable to a second-ranked true saint, and this strength was already the threshold of the heaven-grade members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Of course, Jian Wushuang wanted to become a heaven-grade member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance as soon as possible. In order to become a heaven-grade member, he had to complete 3 Earth-grade 3-star missions alone. Jian Wushuang had never really encountered Earth-grade missions, especially 3-star Earth-grade missions. He did not know how difficult the missions were, so he did not dare to be too careless. Shuedong King. Jian Wushuang took out a token and began to send a message. "Brother Heavenly Sword Marquis, are you not in closed-door cultivation?" Shuedong King quickly replied. "Yes, I just came out of closed-door cultivation. I want to ask you what you have been doing recently." Jian Wushuang smiled and communicated with Shuedong King. Shuedong King was a good friend of his and they had a certain friendship. They had completed the mission to kill the 3 Shadow Saints and obtained the Divine Earth Fruit. After selling the fruit to Lord Tianshou, Shuedong King had obtained 50 million sacred elixirs. He had used the 50 million sacred elixirs to exchange for many secret skills and cultivation treasures, and his strength had improved a lot. In the 80 years that Jian Wushuang had been cultivating in seclusion, Shuedong King had also completed 3 ordinary 3-star missions and become an Earth-level member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. I had completed 1 Earth-level 1-star mission before, and he brought me to join a small team. Our team has just received a 3-star Earth-level mission. "Brother Heavenly Sword Marquis, why don't you join us?" Shuedong King said. 3-star Earth-level mission? Jian Wushuang's heart stirred. What he thought really came true. He was now a bit curious about an Earth-level 3-star mission. He did not know how difficult and deep the mission was. The best way was to join hands with someone to complete a 3-star mission. It turned out that Shuedong King had accepted an Earth-level 3-star mission with someone and had even taken the initiative to invite him. "Sure, where are you?" Jian Wushuang asked. Shuedong King immediately sent his location to Jian Wushuang, who immediately rushed over. This was a relatively remote territory in the Endless Territory. A total of 7 figures were gathered in a great canyon. Most of the 7 figures were wearing gray robes and masks, and all of them had powerful auras. Even the weakest one was at the peak false saint level, and 2 of them were even more powerful true saints. Without wearing a mask, Shuedong King stood up. "Captain, I just contacted a good friend of mine and told him that we're about to complete a 3-star Earth rank mission. He's on his way here right now," Shuedong King said. The captain of this team was a tan man over 2 meters tall, and his aura was extremely violent. This burly man carried a huge axe on his back. Hearing the words of the Shuedong King, this burly man nodded slightly. "This mission is quite special. Not only is there a 2-layered mission, but the most important thing is that the reward for this mission is much more than the same 3-star Earth rank mission. It's almost 10 times more. Such a high reward mission is naturally more dangerous. We naturally have to be more careful. The stronger the squad, the better. Now that there's an expert interested in joining, it's naturally the best. Alright, how's your good friend's strength?" "Stronger than mine," Shuedong King said directly. "Oh." The valiant man's eyes lit up. The other members of the squad at the side also looked over. All of the experts in their team were Earth-ranked members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Their strength was also very impressive. Even the weakest of them was a peak false saint. And Shuedong King's strength should be second only to those 2 true saints in the team. His battle strength was almost on par with that of the weakest true saint. Now that Shuedong King himself said that his good friend was stronger than him, did that not mean that his friend had the battle strength of a true saint? If there really is an expert at the true saint level joining us, then our team's lineup will increase by quite a bit, and our chances of completing this mission will be even greater, the tough man said with a smile. "My friend has already left. He will arrive here soon," Shuedong King said. "In that case, let's wait for him here," the tough man said with a smile, appearing to be very patient. The 7 people of the team were waiting quietly in the valley. Half a day later, a figure in a gray robe, wearing a gray mask and emitting a dark aura rushed over from a distance. Soon he appeared in front of the 7 people in the valley. "Haha, brother of the Heavenly Sword Marquis." Shuedong King laughed and immediately came forward to greet him. "Shuedong King," Jian Wushuang said, and he also looked at the other people in the team. He found that the other 6 members of Shuedong King's team, including the 2 stronger true saint experts, were looking at Jian Wushuang coldly. "Shuedong King, is this the good friend you mentioned before?" The tough man who was the team leader asked. Yes, he is my good friend, Heavenly Sword Marquis, Shuedong King said with a smile. However, the members of the team could not smile because they had already sensed the aura that Jian Wushuang was exuding. Divine Master. Yes, the aura that Jian Wushuang was exuding was only at the Divine Master level. It could not be helped. He was a Divine Master. Although the black stone that Qian Shin Daoist refined for him could change his divine power aura and increase his divine power aura by 2 levels, it was only effective for those below the Immortal Saint level. Right now, the black stone was completely unable to make him emit the aura of the Immortal Saint. A mere Divine Master, of course, was nothing in the eyes of the 7 people in this squad. Shuedong King, are you playing with us? You want a Divine Master to join our squad? Shuedong King, are you joking? Shuedong King, give us an explanation. Cold voices rang out one after another, and the gazes these people used to look at Shuedong King turned cold. Shuedong King's expression changed, but he immediately said, "Everyone, don't misunderstand. I have no intention of fooling you. This good friend of mine is indeed only at the Divine Master level, but his combat strength is extremely outstanding." Chapter 2970, 3 moves, is he very powerful? The other 6 members of the team looked at each other in dismay, but their eyes were still cold. Humph. A low humph suddenly sounded. It was the team leader, the tough man. Shuedong King, you know how dangerous this mission is. With our team's current lineup, it's uncertain whether we can complete this mission safely. Do you want us to bring a burden with us at this time? The tough man said. Burden? Jian Wushuang wore a strange expression under his mask. Captain. Shuedong King was also anxious. You have to believe me. The brother of the Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed very strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become an Earth-level member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. An Earth-level member? The 6 people in the team immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled and took out his identity token. He really is an Earth-level member. A Divine Master became an Earth-level member? How is that possible? It's impossible. He must have completed 3 ordinary 3-star missions of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance in some special way. Otherwise, a Divine Master like him would never have completed 3 ordinary 3-star missions alone. The few people in the team immediately began to doubt. They had no choice but to doubt. One had to know that they were all Earth-rank members. They had all completed 3 ordinary 3-star missions alone. Even if it was only an ordinary mission, once one reached 3-star, the difficulty coefficient would greatly increase. Even a peak false saint would have to be very careful in order to have any hope of completing it. How could a reverend god have the ability to complete such a mission? The people in the team did not believe it. At this time, the tough man stepped forward and said, Shuedong King, you have joined our team for a long time. Since you have been doing well in our team, I can give you some face and take a step back. Ah Chow. Captain. A person immediately walked out. Heavenly Sword Marquis. The tough man stared at Jian Wushuang. They'll give you a chance to fight with Ah Chow. As long as you can survive 3 rounds without getting hurt, we'll recognize your strength. Otherwise you'd better leave. 3 rounds? Sure. Jian Wushuang smiled, not caring about it. He knew that with his Divine Master realm, it was not difficult for him to avoid suspicion, so he was mentally prepared. In the void in the center of the valley, Jian Wushuang and Ah Chow were facing each other at a certain distance. The other members of the team were watching from not far away. Ah Chow, make sure you don't kill this little guy. Yeah, he's a good friend of the Shuedong King. Give him some face and don't kill him. Hurry up and get rid of him. The peak false saints in the team were still smiling casually. Jian Wushuang revealed a playful smile under the mask. As for Ah Chow, his eyes were extremely cold. Kid, don't worry. For the sake of the Shuedong King, I won't kill you. But it'll let you know that there's an insurmountable gap between a Divine Master and a peak false saint. As soon as Ah Chow finished his words, his figure suddenly rushed out. Ah Chow seemed to be quite thin and weak, but as soon as he moved, his violent aura burst out and instantly transformed into an ancient fierce beast that charged at Jian Wushuang. When he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, he formed a claw with one hand. He directly slashed at the void. It was as if the void was about to be completely torn apart. Jian Wushuang could clearly see 5 scarlet rays of blood light attacking his face. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, formed a fist with his right hand, gathered divine power, and then stretched it out. Bang! A low sound of collision was heard. Ah Chow suddenly shook his body. His right palm was a little numb and even slightly painful. He looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise and then pounced forward again. This time he used 2 palms at the same time. The 2 palms cut through the void, bringing with them 2 scarlet flowing lights. It was like a gorgeous meteorite cutting through the void. However, the meteorite looked unusually cold. Jian Wushuang's body swayed slightly. With the help of the space-time rule, he had dodged to the side and easily dodged Chaos 2 claws. After 2 consecutive attacks, Jian Wushuang had also received 2 attacks from Chao. At this time, before Chao could launch a third attack, Jian Wushuang took the initiative to attack. He also launched an ordinary punch. However, this punch contained not only his extremely powerful divine power but also a large amount of the power of the reincarnation rule. One had to know that his current comprehension of the reincarnation rule had already reached the true saint level. Bang! It was clearly an ordinary punch, but it was magnified at a terrifying speed in the void. In the end, it even covered half of the void. The terrifying might completely covered Chao within. Facing such might, even a peak false saint like Chao had a hint of shock in his eyes. Next, he sank into the might that filled the sky, and a large amount of divine power continuously scattered. It took a long time for Chao to break free from the power, but he looked a bit embarrassed. After breaking free, Chao did not continue to attack. Instead, he retreated to the side of the void. He looked at Jian Wushuang with a serious look instead of contempt, but he was more shocked. The other members of the team who were watching the battle around the battlefield were laughing, but now they could not laugh. They looked at Jian Wushuang in shock. 3 moves. Yes, Jian Wushuang had only exchanged 3 moves with Chao. However, in these 3 moves, 2 moves, Chao was the one who initiated the attack, but Jian Wushuang easily blocked or neutralized it. In the last move, Jian Wushuang took the initiative to attack, forcing Chao into a sorry state. Although Chao did not have the time to use all of his strength, judging from the 3 exchanges, this good friend of Shuedong King and the Divine Master in front of him, although he was only at the Divine Master level, his battle strength was indeed extraordinary. At the very least he should be at the peak false saint level. Can a Divine Master really contend with a peak false saint? Genius, Heavenly Sword Marquis must be a very great genius. To be able to fight against a dynasty for 3 rounds without falling behind, his strength is not considered weak. Previously, these people thought that Jian Wushuang, a Divine Master, would be a burden to their team, so they did not agree. But now. Chapter 2971. Dragon Flame World. Shuedong King, your good friend is really strong. He will be included in this mission, the tough man said directly. Thank you, Captain. Shuedong King was delighted. In fact, he was glad that Jian Wushuang was on his team. He knew Jian Wushuang's battle strength very well. 80 years ago, Jian Wushuang fought with a saint at the peak of rank 1 true saint, the Star Sea Saint. He was only at a disadvantage. In his team, even their captain could not have such battle strength. It was a great blessing for his team that Jian Wushuang could join them to complete this mission. Of course, Shuedong King would not take the initiative to explain. Heavenly Sword Marquis. The tough man looked at Jian Wushuang and said, I am Man Tai. You can call me Captain. From now on, you are a member of our team. Barbarian King team? Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. This time our team has accepted a 3-star Earth-level task, which is very special and difficult. Although our team's battle strength is good, we still have to be careful. During the process of the task, I hope you will absolutely follow my instructions, the tough man said. As long as I'm not stupid enough to be cannon fodder, it's no problem, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Of course not, the tough man said with a smile. These are the other members of our team. You already know Shuedong King and Chao. You should also know the others. Jian Wushuang immediately got to know the others. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you just joined our Barbarian King team. I'm afraid you don't know what mission we have accepted. Shuedong King, tell him in detail, the tough man said. Okay. Shuedong King nodded and began to tell Jian Wushuang. After a while. It's about time. We should set off. The tough man stood up. The other 7 members of the team, including Jian Wushuang, were also ready. Let's go. The tough man gave the order, and the 8 members of the Barbarian King team immediately headed to the nearby Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's lair. Through the spatial impulse in the lair, the Barbarian King team of 8 quickly appeared at the location of their mission, the Dragon Flame World. The Dragon Flame World was a special territory. This territory was not occupied by human cultivators, but by exotic beasts. There were all kinds of powerful exotic beasts here, and there were many of them. Among them, the most famous and powerful one was the Dragon Flame Beast. The Dragon Flame Beast was not a beast with a high bloodline among the beasts in the beginning divine realm, but it was not weak either. After all, it could carry the word dragon, so it was more or less related to the bloodline of a true dragon. According to the information the Barbarian King's team got from the mission, There were more than 30 dragon flame beasts in the dragon flame world. Among these 30 dragon flame beasts, 6 of them were still in the growth stage. They were so weak that they could not even fight against the immortal saint. However, the remaining ones could contend against the human immortal saint. Among them, there were 16 dragon flame beasts that were comparable to a human cultivator's first-level true saint. In addition, the strongest 3 dragon flame beasts in the dragon flame world could even contend against a second-level true saint. The first mission the Barbarian King team received this time was to kill a dragon flame beast that had reached the first-level true saint. In the void of the dragon flame world, the 8 members of the Barbarian King team continued to fly forward. Be careful, this dragon flame world is a territory controlled by exotic beasts after all. There are many exotic beasts here, and most of these exotic beasts hate us human cultivators. Once they discover our arrival, they might directly kill us. Although most of the exotic beasts are very weak, there are too many of them. Once we are targeted by some of the exotic beasts and fall into a big battle, we will not be able to get out of it in a short period of time. The disturbance will be greater and greater, and more exotic beasts will be attracted to us. Although our squad is not weak, it is nothing in front of billions of exotic beasts. Therefore, we must not linger in the battle at any time. If you encounter an exotic beast, don't fight if you can. If you do, kill it quickly. Do you understand? The tough man's deep voice echoed in everyone's ears. I understand. The 7 people in the team, including Jianghu, nodded heavily. They were in the exotic beast territory, so they knew the consequences if they were surrounded by countless exotic beasts. Roar. An angry roar suddenly sounded, shaking the sky. Exotic beasts have found us. The tough man's face darkened. Look at this aura. It's an exotic beast that's comparable to the immortal saint, but it's not a dragon flame beast, Shuedong King said solemnly. Kill him directly, the tough man ordered. Their team immediately crushed the exotic beast and killed it in less than 2 breaths. Then they left as fast as they could. In a flash, the 8 members of the Barbarian King team had been in the dragon flame world for 3 days. During these 3 days, they had encountered many exotic beasts and fought with them several times. However, they killed them as fast as they could and did not encounter much trouble. According to the mission report, there is a dragon flame beast that is comparable to a true saint in the forest ahead, the tough man said. Jianghu and the others looked up and looked at the forest at the end of their line of sight. The forest was extremely vast and hid the aura of many exotic beasts. The missions issued by the Heaven Cleaving Alliance usually had detailed mission descriptions and some information. For example, the mission they intercepted this time included the location of the dragon flame beasts in the dragon flame world. The dragon flame beast with true saint battle strength is not to be underestimated. Moreover, this is the territory of exotic beasts. We must kill the dragon flame beast as soon as possible and then leave, the tough man said with a serious tone. How about this? Later, I, Puyu, and Shuedong King will directly attack the dragon flame beast. Achao, Heavenly Sword Marquis, you guys are slightly weaker, so there is no need to fight the dragon flame beast head-on. Just 2 people and 3 people will stay around to prevent the dragon flame beast from escaping. Yes. No problem. Everyone in the Barbarian King team nodded in unison. Immediately, the 3 strongest people in the Barbarian King team directly charged into the forest. Among these 3 people, Barbarian Tai was the team leader, and his combat strength was the strongest, close to the peak of rank 1. Although Puyu was wearing a mask, it was clear that she was a woman with a pretty temperament. She was the second true saint in the team, and her combat strength was naturally second only to Barbarian Tai, which was the tough man. As for Shuedong King, after selling the divine earth fruit and obtaining a large number of sacred elixirs, his strength had soared after exchanging for treasures. He was not much weaker than an ordinary true saint. If the 3 of them worked together, they would be able to kill the dragon flame beast without any mishaps. Chapter 2972. Kill the dragon flame beast. Boom. A violent roar resounded across the sky and broke the silence of the dense forest. Along with a loud dragon roar, an extremely violent aura suddenly rose. Whoosh. A strong wind blew, and a large number of towering trees, which were 300 meters tall, were easily lifted up like seedlings. A huge monster really appeared in the world. Is that the dragon flame beast? Jianghu and Achao stood in the void at the edge of the dense forest. They both looked at the fiery red monster in front of them. This huge monster was like a lion. It had a huge and ferocious head, and its body was covered with red scales. It also had a pair of huge wings on both sides of its body. These wings were dragon wings. It was surrounded by raging flames, which burned everything. Anyone standing around it could feel the scorching heat. Dragon Flame Beast at the true saint level has a strong aura, Jian Wushuang muttered. Look, the captain and the others are attacking. Chaos eyes were shining. In the void in the middle of the dense forest, the tough man Puyu and Shuedong King had already attacked with all their strength. The three of them surrounded the Dragon Flame Beast and displayed their monstrous strength, frantically attacking to kill it. Although the Dragon Flame Beast was a true saint beast, its combat strength was only around a first-level true saint. Facing the combined attacks of the three of them, it naturally could not resist, especially Mantai, who was the strongest of the three. He held a golden axe tightly in his hand. The golden axe was covered with layers of golden thunder as if the golden thunder god was alive. He waved the golden axe repeatedly, each time as if a golden divine thunder had descended. It was extremely powerful and invincible. The power contained in the golden axe suppressed the Dragon Flame Beast again and again. Several times when the Dragon Flame Beast wanted to rise, it was pressed down to the ground by the golden axe. The strength of this captain is not bad. He is very close to the Star Sea Saint, Jian Wushuang murmured. In terms of strength, the Barbarian King was only close to the Star Sea Saint, but it was still slightly weaker. With the help of Puyu and Shuedong King, the Dragon Flame Beast could not escape even if it wanted to. In just a moment, the Dragon Flame Beast was covered in wounds under the attack of the three people. Obviously it could not hold on for long. Is it going to be killed soon? The Barbarian King team's eyes were filled with anticipation as they watched the Dragon Flame Beast escape. But right at this moment, dong, 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 a low and deep sound suddenly came from the void not far away. At the same time, a similarly powerful and violent aura slowly rose from the void. This is... The 8 members of the Barbarian King team immediately looked towards the void. At the end of the void, an ugly black-armored beast covered in pitch-black scales was rushing over. The low thud-thud-thud was the footsteps of this black-armored beast. The aura of this black-armored beast was extremely powerful. Another true saint beast? Not good. Damn it, there's another true saint beast near this Dragon Flame Beast. The expressions of the Barbarian King team became ugly. They were currently trying their best to kill the Dragon Flame Beast, so they naturally did not want any other beast to disturb them. If it was just some weaker beast, such as a few ordinary saint beasts, they would be able to deal with them easily. But in the end, it was a true saint-level exotic beast. True saint-level exotic beasts. Besides the 3 people who were currently surrounding and killing the Dragon Flame Beast, who else could contend against them? Whether it was Barbarian King, Puyu or Shuedong King, the 3 of them were at the most critical moment. The Dragon Flame Beast was about to be killed. If any of them left at this time, the Dragon Flame Beast would easily find an opportunity to escape. By then, all their efforts would have been in vain. 10 breaths, at most 10 breaths we can kill the Dragon Flame Beast. Achao, Heavenly Sword Marquis. The 5 of you think of a way to stop the black-armored beast. The Barbarian King shouted. As the leader of the Barbarian King team, this was his best judgment at the first moment. The 3 of them continued to kill the Dragon Flame Beast while Jian Wushuang and the others tried to stop the black-armored beast. In just 10 breaths, the 5 superior false saints should be able to hold on. Kill. Stop him. Evil creature, die. The 5 superior false saints, including Jian Wushuang, moved at once. The 5 of them appeared in front of the black-armored beast and then attacked. Except for Jian Wushuang, the other 4 immediately displayed their strongest strength. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. 5 powerful attacks were directed at the black-armored beast. Jian Wushuang's attack was also included. Although he did not use his full strength, the power of his casual attack was not inferior to the full strength of a superior false saint. In the face of these 5 attacks, the black-armored exotic beast spat out 2 streams of black air from its nose. Then its body moved strangely like a demonic charm. Swish, 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 swish. The black-armored exotic beast left several afterimages in the void, but its body easily passed through the attacks of the 5 people. What? This speed, it's so fast. This beast's speed is too fast. Achao and the other 3 people were shocked, but the black-armored beast had already appeared in front of him. 2 sharp claws flashed like 2 streams of black light. Jian Wushuang was the only one who could see some shadows, but the other 4 people did not have time to react. Buff, 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 buff. The black-armored beast easily flashed twice, but only twice. Achao and the other 4 peak false saints were hit by the sharp claws of the black-armored beast. Although their divine bodies were not shattered, the 4 of them were severely injured. They all spat out blood. The 4 of them also retreated in a sorry state. In addition, the black-armored beast did not only attack the 4 of them, but also the 5 of them at the same time. Jian Wushuang was also one of the targets of the black-armored beast, but unfortunately, its sharp claws were blocked by Jian Wushuang. Human, the black-armored beast stared at Jian Wushuang with cold eyes. An exotic beast at the true saint level was not much inferior to a human cultivator in terms of intelligence. When it first saw Jian Wushuang and the others, it knew that Jian Wushuang's aura was the weakest, but it did not expect that the weakest human. Instead, it blocked its attack head-on. Chapter 2973, True Saint Battle Strength, Human, Die. The black-armored beast's brutal aura rose again. It turned into a stream of light and rushed toward Jian Wushuang again. Heavenly Sword Marquis, be careful. Someone immediately warned him. Jian Wushuang just smiled and flew out. In the void, Jian Wushuang and the black-armored exotic beast's speed burst out. Bang, bang, clang. Several sounds of collision resounded in the void. Jian Wushuang had already fought with the black-armored exotic beast several times. In the void, the afterimages of the 2 people constantly burst out. Terrifying. The speed of this black-armored exotic beast is too terrifying. In terms of attack power alone, this black-armored beast is probably only comparable to an ordinary first-rank true saint, and might even be inferior. However, its speed is far faster than an ordinary first-rank true saint. With such speed, if this black-armored beast wants to kill us, it will definitely slaughter us. With the speed of this black-armored beast so terrifying, I can immediately do it. After all, the talent of this beast is different from us human cultivators. However, the key point is, how can the speed of this Heavenly Sword Marquis be so fast? Look, he can completely keep up with the speed of the black-armored beast, and even fight it head-on without being at a disadvantage? The 4 members of the Barbarian King team who had been pushed back were stunned. They had just joined hands to block the black-armored beast, but in one move, the black-armored beast had seriously injured them and pushed them back. But now, Jian Wushuang alone had blocked the black-armored beast? Boom, boom, boom. A series of violent explosions still resounded in the sky. Jian Wushuang had blocked the black-armored beast, and on the other side, the Barbarian King, Puyu, and Shuedong King were also attacking the Dragon Flame Beast with all their strength. The Dragon Flame Beast had been seriously injured. Previously, the Barbarian King estimated that they could kill the Dragon Flame Beast within 10 breaths, but in fact, it did not take them 10 breaths. In just the 8th breath, the Barbarian King's huge axe struck the Dragon Flame Beast's huge head. Sparks flew in all directions. Although the Dragon Flame Beast's body protection ability was extremely strong, half of its head was still chopped off by this axe. Then, the killing moves of Puyu and Shuedong King followed. The Dragon Flame Beast was finally killed. It's finally dead. Looking at the Dragon Flame Beast that was already killed, the Barbarian King, Puyu, and Shuedong King were pleasantly surprised. Then they also noticed the scene in the void. Heavenly Sword Marquis, he stopped a true saint-level exotic beast by himself. And this black-armored exotic beast is so powerful. The Barbarian King's eyes were full of surprise. Puyu was also very surprised. Shuedong King was not surprised at all. He was very clear about Jian Wushuang's battle strength. Jian Wushuang could even fight a true saint at the peak of rank 1. So what if he stopped an ordinary true saint-level exotic beast? Roar, roar, roar. From time to time, a series of beast roars or hisses could be heard from the surrounding void. Apparently, a large number of exotic beasts had begun to gather in their direction. The Dragon Flame Beast has been killed. Let's not tangle with these exotic beasts and leave quickly. The Barbarian King shouted in a low voice. Heavenly Sword Marquis, Shuedong King called out to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and easily got rid of the black-armored exotic beast. Let's go. Everyone in the Barbarian King team immediately left. The black-armored exotic beast did not dare to chase after them. An hour later, in a remote void, everyone in the Barbarian King team stopped. I killed the Dragon Flame Beast and its body is in my interspatial ring. This mission is much easier than I expected, the Barbarian King said with a laugh. That's true, but it's mainly because our team is very strong, Puyu said with a smile. Yes, it's all thanks to Heavenly Sword Marquis. The Barbarian King immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. He was not the only one. Everyone else could not help looking at Jian Wushuang. Everyone present saw the scene clearly. If Jian Wushuang had not stopped the black-armored beast by himself, they would not have been able to kill it so easily. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I doubted your strength before, but now I apologize to you. And this time it's all thanks to you, the Barbarian King said directly. So do we, the peak false saints beside them said one after another. They had mixed feelings at the moment. When they first saw Jian Wushuang, they did not put him in their eyes at all. Even though Jian Wushuang did not lose in the 3 head-on battles with Ah Chao, they only approved of him and allowed him to join the team, but they still felt a little proud. After all, they were immortal saints and Jian Wushuang was only a divine master. But now, after the battle with the black-armored beast, the immortal saints in the Barbarian King team no longer had any arrogance. What a joke. Apart from the Barbarian King, Puyu and Shuedong King, who had true saint battle strength and were not afraid of the black-armored beast, the other 4 people would definitely die if they fought against the black-armored beast alone. However, Jian Wushuang had stopped the black-armored beast alone. His strength was obviously much stronger than theirs. True saint, this heavenly sword marquis definitely has the battle strength of a true saint. These people were secretly shocked and looked at Jian Wushuang with strange eyes. It was incredible that a divine master had the battle strength of a true saint. Monster. This was the evaluation of Jian Wushuang in the hearts of everyone present. Captain, what happened before is over. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's talk about this mission first, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Okay. The Barbarian King nodded and then became serious. As I said before, this mission is very special. There are 2 stages. The first stage is to come to the Dragon Flame world and kill a Dragon Flame beast that is comparable to a true saint. Now that we have completed this mission, we have 2 choices. The first is to give up the second stage of the mission and leave the Dragon Flame world with the corpse of the Dragon Flame beast. We will return to the Heaven Cleaving Alliance's nest to hand over the mission. Although we haven't completed the complete mission, we can still get a total of 20 million sacred elixirs even if we only complete the first stage of the mission. If the 8 of us split the 20 million sacred elixirs, each of us will be able to get quite a bit. At this point, the Barbarian King stopped and looked at the reactions of the people around him. The members of the Barbarian King team also looked at each other at this moment. They all had their own thoughts. Chapter 2974. The second phase of the mission, 20 million sacred elixirs, was indeed not a small amount. There were 8 people on their team. If they split it equally, each of them would be able to obtain 2,500,000 sacred elixirs, which was already quite a large amount. However, even though they were in the same team, the strength of the people in the team was different, and their roles in the process of killing the Dragon Flame beast were also different. Therefore, it was definitely impossible to split the sacred elixirs equally. For example, the Barbarian King was the leader of the Barbarian King team and was widely recognized as the strongest. The reason why he was able to kill the Dragon Flame beast was largely that he had suppressed the Dragon Flame beast. He had contributed so much, so he must have received more sacred elixirs. Secondly, Jian Wushuang, Puyu, and Shuedong King had contributed a lot, so they naturally received more sacred elixirs. As for the remaining 4 people, they did not contribute much, so they did not share much. Therefore, it was not acceptable for the weaker peak false saints to take only 20 million sacred elixirs. Captain, isn't there a second option? The peak false saint named Ah Chao looked over. The second option is to continue to complete the second stage of the mission, the Barbarian King said in a low voice. The reward for the second stage of the mission is 10 times that of the first stage, which is 200 million sacred elixirs. Hearing this number, everyone present, except Jian Wushuang, could not help exclaiming, 200 million sacred elixirs. You must know that the divine earth fruit that Jian Wushuang and Shuedong King had obtained was enough for many powerful immortal saints who had comprehended the rules of the earth to fight for. However, if they exchanged it with Sir Chen Shua, it's only $100 million worth of sacred elixirs. And the reward of this second stage mission unexpectedly was 2 divine earth fruit. For most true saints, such a large sum of sacred elixirs was already an astronomical figure. Many true saints who had reached the 3rd or 4th rank would not be able to produce so many sacred elixirs. Only those above the 5th rank, in the immortal saint, has stood in the top level of the immortal saint, perhaps only has this ability. 200 million sacred elixirs? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. He was also a little surprised. After all, this was only an earth-level task. Although it was a 3-star task, the reward should not be so ridiculous? With 200 million sacred elixirs, he believed that even many 1-star and 2-star heaven-level tasks could not have such a high reward. There must be something wrong. Jian Wushuang firmly believed that the second phase of the mission was not to be looked down upon for such a high reward. Everyone in the Barbarian King team knew this, so when they learned about the second phase of the mission's reward, although they were excited, they did not lose their minds. Captain, what is the second phase of the mission? Shuedong King asked. Previously, the Barbarian King had only told them about the first phase of the mission. As for the second phase of the mission, They had only heard about it from the barbarian king. However, no one knew the details of the mission. This mission, the barbarian king frowned. I don't know the details of the mission. It's just that after we complete the first phase of the mission, we will take the corpse of the dragon flame beast and stay in the dragon flame world for another month. After that, we can leave. Stay for another month? That simple? The members of the barbarian king team were all stunned. It looks simple, but the reward for this mission is 200 million sacred elixirs. The difficulty must be extraordinary. Moreover, we don't know the details of this mission. It's filled with all kinds of uncertainties. That's why I'm a little hesitant to continue with the second phase of the mission, said the barbarian king in a deep voice. Let's discuss it together. The 8 members of the barbarian king team immediately began to discuss. They did not know the details of the second phase of the mission, so they were not confident at all. However, the reward of 200 million sacred elixirs made them very tempted. After a simple discussion, everyone had an idea. 200 million sacred elixirs. If we complete it, the 8 of us can split it. Each of us can get at least 20 million sacred elixirs. This is a huge amount of money. For this huge amount of money, I'm willing to give it my all. Achao was the first to speak. I'm willing to give it my all. Haha, it seems to be the same. The members spoke one after another. They were all willing to give it their all and continue to complete the second stage of the mission. They could not resist the temptation of 200 million sacred elixirs. Even though they knew that this mission was no small matter, they were willing to give it a try. I'm willing too. Shuedong King also spoke. Jian Wushuang was the only one among the 8 members of the barbarian king team who did not express his opinion. Jian Wushuang immediately smiled when he noticed the gazes of the people around him. Since everyone is interested, he'll naturally accompany you to the end. In the end, he would only be able to get a few tens of millions of sacred elixirs. He did not care too much about it. After all, the destruction beast statue he appraised from Lord Tianshou was worth 500 million sacred elixirs. He just did not exchange it. The 8 of them reached an agreement. Then they began to discuss the specific plan for the next step. Here was a stretch of void not far from the dragon flame world. In this void there was a black shrine floating. In the shrine, several figures wearing the same clothes gathered together. It's been more than 10 days since the mission started. The first phase of the mission should be almost complete. What's the result? A middle-aged man wearing a triangular helmet spoke. His voice was loud and clear, echoing throughout the entire shrine. Sir, there are a total of 34 teams that have accepted the mission that we issued in the Dragon Flame world. 13 of these 36 teams have completed the first phase of the mission. As for the other 23 teams, a man in black beside him said respectfully. The members of the Barbarian King team did not know that they were not the only team that had accepted this mission. There were a total of 34 teams. Moreover, these 34 teams were all in the Dragon Flame world right now. It was just that they had not seen each other yet. Of the remaining 23 teams, 3 teams were defeated by the exotic beasts on the way to the mission. The remaining 20 teams were too slow. Most of the first-ranked True Saint Dragon Flame beasts in the Dragon Flame world have already been killed by the other teams. Send a message to the team leaders who killed the Dragon Flame beasts and ask them if they are willing to continue with the second phase of the mission. As for those who haven't completed the first phase of the mission yet, tell them that their mission has failed and ask them to leave the Dragon Flame world immediately, the middle-aged man with the triangular helmet said coldly. Yes. The black-clothed man nodded and immediately sent the message. Chapter 2975. His Highness. After a short while, the man in black received a reply from each team. My lord, among the 13 teams that have completed the mission, only one team has given up. The other 12 teams are all willing to continue with the second phase of the mission. As for those that have not completed the first phase of the mission, they have already begun to leave, the man in black said. 12 teams. The man in the triangular helmet nodded slightly. As expected, the attraction of 200 million sacred elixirs is really huge. Only one of the 13 teams is willing to give up. Looks like they all want to complete the mission. Tell them to rest and adjust for 10 days in the Dragon Flame world. The second phase of the mission will begin in 10 days. Yes. The man in black nodded respectfully. At this moment, the man in the triangular helmet's expression suddenly changed and he immediately stood up. His Highness Chen has entered the wormhole and will arrive soon. What? So fast? Everyone in the Divine Hall was shocked. Let's go. Follow me to welcome His Highness Chen. The man in the triangular helmet immediately led the people in the Divine Hall outside. In front of a majestic wormhole, The man with the triangular helmet and 6 men in black under him stood there respectfully and waited quietly. After a short while, the wormhole in front of them erupted with a blinding light. Then a figure slowly stepped out of the wormhole. The person was dressed in a black robe and was only about 1.7 meters tall. He carried a battle saber on his back. His face was handsome and his eyes were long and narrow. As soon as he appeared, his sharp eyes immediately swept toward the triangular-shaped battle helmet man and the others. "Greetings, Your Highness Chen." The triangular-shaped battle helmet man and the 6 black-clothed men immediately bowed respectfully. However, both the triangular-shaped battle helmet man and the 6 black-clothed men had already reached the true saint level, especially the triangular-shaped battle helmet man whose aura had reached the 3rd level true saint. He was definitely a true expert. The aura emitted by the black-robed young man, His Royal Highness Chen, who made them bow respectfully, had yet to reach the true saint level. That's right, His Highness Chen was merely a false saint, a peak false saint. However, it was this peak false saint who made the 7 true saints in front of them, including the man in the triangular helmet, extremely respectful. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. "Let's go in and talk," Prince Chen said. The man in the triangular helmet immediately led Prince Chen into the divine hall. "Your Highness, this is the target of Your Highness' mission this time. It contains the information of 12 squads of experts." The man in the triangular helmet handed a jade slip to Prince Chen. Thank you for your trouble." Prince Chen nodded slightly, but casually threw the jade slip to the side. "Your Highness, aren't you going to take a look?" The man in the triangular helmet asked in puzzlement. "Some of the strongest cultivators are only 1st level true saints. What's there to look at? This mission isn't difficult at all for me," His Highness Chen said. His words were very casual. He was not boasting, but it was true, he did not take it to heart at all. When the man with the triangular helmet saw this, he could only sigh in his heart, but he did not doubt Prince Chen's strength at all. As expected of the top genius from the Heaven and Earth Palace. He's clearly only a peak false saint and has just broken through not long ago, but he doesn't put ordinary 1st level true saints in his eyes, the man with the triangular helmet thought. "Right, how much longer until the mission starts?" Prince Chen asked. 10 days. The man in the triangular helmet replied. "I'll stay here for 10 days. When the mission starts you can call me." His Highness Chen replied. "Yes." The man in the triangular helmet nodded. His Highness Chen immediately closed his eyes and entered a state of comprehension. Only 10 days, yet he still didn't forget to comprehend. He's already a genius disciple of the Heaven and Earth Palace, yet he still works so hard? The man in the triangular helmet sighed in his heart before he left. This triangular-shaped man was only an expert from the outer circle of the War Sky Alliance. He had no access to the true core of the War Sky Alliance. He had only heard of the 3 palaces of the War Sky Alliance, but he did not know much about them. If he knew more, he definitely would not think this way. One had to know that the 3 palaces of the War Sky Alliance were the top genius gathering camps in the beginning divine world. Those who could enter the 3 palaces were all super geniuses at the monster level. With so many super geniuses gathered together, there was naturally competition. Moreover, this competition was exceptionally intense and even crazy. In such an environment, naturally no one dared to relax. Each and every one of them fought with their lives. Yet this Prince Chen was just like this. 10 days. Although it was short, this Prince Chen was still in the midst of comprehending. Very quickly 10 days had passed. The triangular-shaped battle helmet man once again appeared in front of this Prince Chen. "Prince Chen, the time has already passed. Your Highness can set off now." The triangular-shaped battle helmet man respectfully said. "Amen." Prince Chen acknowledged. His gaze had already opened. After a long while, this Prince Chen passed through the spatial passageway and descended into the Dragon Flame world. The experts of the 12 teams who were still in the Dragon Flame world did not know that such a genius expert had arrived. Only the man with the triangular helmet and the black-clothed men under him started to pity them. 200 million sacred elixirs is indeed a big temptation. Unfortunately, not everyone can get such a big reward. I wonder how many of the 12 teams will survive after His Highness Chen's massacre? In a vast void in the Dragon Flame world. A young man wearing a black robe and carrying a saber appeared here. He had a jade slip in his hand. The jade slip contained the information of the experts who were still in the 12 teams in the Dragon Flame world. It also included the positions of the 12 teams. His Highness Chen still did not look at the information of the experts of the 12 teams. Instead, he looked at the positions of the 12 teams. Then he directly rushed toward the team closest to him. This was a barren plain without any signs of life. The land of this plain had already turned completely yellow. Not to mention human cultivators, even the strange beasts of the dragon flame world rarely lived in this barren plain. However, one of the 12 teams was currently hiding in this barren plain. This team had a total of 6 people. Chapter 2976. Easily killed a cave dwelling that had been temporarily opened up. The 6 experts of the team gathered together. Although there were only 6 people in this team, their lineup was extremely strong. There were 3 true saints of the first rank alone, and the remaining 3 were also extremely powerful peak false saints. They had also killed a true saint-level dragon flame beast, even though they had been hiding here. This mission is really strange. They didn't tell me the details of the second phase of the mission and just let us stay in the dragon flame world for another month. Could it be that something big will happen in the dragon flame world within this 1 month? A true saint expert said. Who knows? I've been an Earth-rank member of the War Sky Alliance for a long time, and I've received quite a few missions. However, I've never encountered such a strange mission. I wonder who the War Sky Alliance is issuing the mission to. What are they thinking about? Another person said. Alright, stop complaining. The leader of the team, a bald old man, said, no matter what we will encounter in this mission, we only need to stay here for a month. At most, we can hide here for a month. No matter what happens in the outside world, don't go out. As long as we can stay here for a month, we can get a total of 200 million sacred elixirs. Upon hearing the 200 million sacred elixirs, the eyes of the other members of the team turned scarlet. In fact, very few people were willing to accept missions like this, where they did not even know the details of the mission. But this time, it was because the reward of 200 million sacred elixirs was too attractive. No one could resist the temptation of 200 million sacred elixirs. At this moment, His Highness Chen, who had just arrived in the dragon flame world, had already arrived in the wilderness and arrived outside the cave abode where the team was located. Boom. A majestic divine power from the body of Prince Chen swept up, and directly toward the cave to the impact. Hiding in the cave, and the 6 people immediately reacted. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 6 figures shot into the sky at once. In the void, the 6 strong men of this squad, one by one, glared at the black-robed young Prince Chen in front of them. Where is the boy dare to destroy my 6 people's cave, seek death? A peak false saint immediately shouted. His Highness Chen's gaze was cold as he swept across the 6 people in front of him. He coldly said, he'll give you 2 choices. The first is to hand over the dragon flame beast's corpse that you've killed before and leave the dragon flame world. The second is to die. Hearing this, the 6 people in this team were so angry that they laughed. Haha, where did this idiot come from? He's just a peak false saint, yet he still dares to speak so shamelessly in front of the 6 of us. He's really courting death. Don't waste your breath on him. Kill him before. Kill? The 3 weaker peak false saints in this 6-man team immediately moved. 3 majestic auras directly pressed down on Prince Chen. As for the 3 true saints in the team, they just watched with faint smiles on their faces. They had no intention of making a move. In their eyes, both sides were peak false saints. With 3 against 1, this black-robed man with a battle saber on his back was dead for sure. But suddenly, Prince Chen made his move. His figure flashed and he appeared in front of the 3 peak false saints charging over. The battle blade behind him was instantly unsheathed. Whoosh! A blade light slashed out mercilessly. This blade light was clearly just casually slashed out, but it contained the endless power of the laws of darkness. The power of the laws of darkness was far denser than these peak false saints had imagined, and the blade light even grew bigger along the way. It instantly engulfed the 3 peak false saints. Careful. The 3 peak false saints also sensed it, and they instinctively attacked with all their strength, trying to block this blade light. But in the end, the blade light mercilessly swept past, and the 3 peak false saints were all killed, leaving behind 3 cold corpses. What? The other 3 true saints who were in the air not far away were all shocked when they saw this scene. 1 against 3, and he killed 3 peak false saints with a blade. What kind of battle power was this? It's your turn. Prince Chen's expression was cold. With a flash, he appeared in front of the 3 true saints as if he had teleported. Block him. The bald elder, who was the team leader and the strongest of the 3 true saints, was the first to react. He brandished a huge hammer and smashed it out with boundless divine power. Divine lightning crackled and formed a lightning prison that charged toward Prince Chen. Prince Chen's gaze was still cold as he casually waved the battle saber in his hand. The lightning prison, which also carried the endless power of the law of darkness, instantly collapsed. However, this dark saber light continued to stand on top of the bald old man's divine body with shocking power. The bald old man was a first-level true saint after all, and his protective ability was not weak. However, under this saber light, his divine body started to crumble. With one slash, the bald elder's divine body completely crumbled. Impossible. He's this strong? The other two true saints were completely stunned. One slash had caused the divine body of a rank 1 true saint to crumble. This strength had definitely surpassed the level of a rank 1 true saint. So. Princess Chen's figure once again flickered and then shwa. Another 2 slashes descended. The two true saints did not even have time to react before they were swept away by the blade light, and their divine bodies also collapsed. In just an instant, the divine bodies of the 3 true saints in this team had already been directly destroyed. However, true saints could control their immortal bodies and rely on divine power to replenish their divine bodies. A large amount of divine power began to gather, and the bald old man's divine body was the first to recover. However, after recovering, the bald old man was extremely terrified. Too terrifying. This person's strength is too terrifying. He destroyed my divine body with a single slash. Although I can reassemble my divine body, reassembling it once would consume close to 30% of my divine power. If that's the case, he would only need 4 slashes at most to truly kill me. Run. The bald old man did not hesitate at all and immediately chose to flee. He knew very well that this black-robed young man's strength was only that of Prince Chen's. He was not someone he could contend against. Not to mention him alone, even if the 3 true saints joined forces, they would not be able to contend against him. They would only be easily killed by the other party. He's the strongest in this team. The dragon flame beast's corpse should be on him. A sharp light flashed in Prince Chen's eyes as he instantly chased after the bald old man. The purpose of this trip was that his mission was not to kill all the experts from the 12 squads, but to kill the corpse of the dragon flame beast in the hands of the 12 squads. Chapter 2977, Slaughter. No. Spare me. The bald old man let out a shrill scream. He wanted to beg for mercy from Chen, but it was too late. Chen chased after the bald old man and slashed again. The bald old man did not have any room to struggle. His god body collapsed again. Then, when the bald old man's body reassembled, the saber light continued to slash out. This happened only 3 times. The bald old man's body reassembled 4 times, but his divine power was completely exhausted. In the end, he was still killed by His Highness Chen. After the bald old man died, His Highness Chen picked up his interspatial ring. He scanned it with his consciousness and nodded slightly. The dragon flame beast's corpse was indeed in the bald old man's hands. Those 2 fled really quickly. His long and narrow eyes glanced at the distant void. At the same time that he killed the bald old man, the divine bodies of the 2 true saint companions of the bald old man had already reassembled. They immediately fled and could not care about the life and death of the bald old man at all. His Highness Chen also had no way to chase after them. After all, it would indeed take some effort to kill a true saint expert who had an immortal body. Even if he was much stronger than the bald old man and could destroy the other party's divine body with one strike, the other party could still reconstruct his divine body. Under such circumstances, he could only focus on the bald old man alone. 12 teams, 1 team has been dealt with. There are 11 left. A cold smile appeared on Prince Chen's lips and then he set off again. In the void outside the dragon flame world, in the Black Dot Shrine, the triangular-shaped battle helmet man and the 6 black-clothed men under his command were all gathered together. In front of them was a huge mirror image. In the mirror image, the scene of what happened to Prince Chen in the dragon flame world. Too powerful. Prince Chen is too powerful. Prince Chen is only a peak false saint and not a true saint. He doesn't even have an immortal body yet. But when he killed a rank 1 true saint, it was as if he killed a chicken. With one slash, he destroyed a powerful rank 1 true saint's divine body. As expected of a super genius from the Heaven and Earth Palace. His combat power is really strong. The 6 black-clothed men were continuously praising and sighing. Clearly, the scene that appeared on the screen made them feel extremely shocked. As for the triangular-shaped battle helmet man, his expression was also quite interesting. Heaven and Earth Palace. As far as I know, the Heaven and Earth Palace is only the lowest amongst the 3 most core palaces of our Sky War Alliance. Above them are the Primal Palace and the Primal Chaos Palace. The geniuses of these two palaces are truly terrifying, especially the Primal Chaos Palace. Rumor has it that as long as a super genius from the Primal Chaos Palace doesn't die, he or she will definitely be able to comprehend a law and become the Master of Laws. Master of Laws. The 6 black-robed men looked at each other, their eyes filled with endless shock. In their eyes, it was already heaven-defying enough for Prince Chen to easily kill a first-level true saint as a peak false saint. However, he only came from the Heaven and Earth Palace, which was the lowest of the 3 palaces. They could not imagine how terrifying the geniuses from the Primal Palace and Primal Chaos Palace who were even higher than the Heaven and Earth Palace were. Those teams in the Dragon Flame world are going to be in big trouble. The man in the triangular helmet sighed quietly. The truth was true as the man in the triangular helmet had expected. This Prince Chen was too powerful. He was so powerful that he had definitely surpassed the level of a first-level true saint. Although he was alone, he could do whatever he wanted in the Dragon Flame world. Moreover, he still had the positions of the 12 teams. According to the positions in the Jade Slip, he went to them one by one. First, he asked them to hand over the corpse of the Dragon Flame beast. If they did not agree, he would take action immediately. Under his thunderous methods, the teams could not resist at all. One by one, the teams were mercilessly massacred by His Highness Chen. In fact, as long as these teams brought the Dragon Flame beast's corpse and stayed in the Dragon Flame world for a month, they would be rewarded with 200 million sacred elixirs. However, only 10 days had passed in this month, and 1/3 had passed. 8 out of the 12 teams had already been defeated. The Dragon Flame beast corpse in the hands of these 8 squads had also fallen into the hands of Prince Chen. 12 days after the mission began, this Prince Chen had found the 9th squad hidden within the Dragon Flame world, and this squad was surprisingly the Barbarian King squad. Bang! Similarly, majestic divine power rose from Prince Chen's body, directly charging toward the cave abode where the 8 Barbarian King squads were hiding. The 8 Barbarian King team members were immediately alerted and appeared in the void. The Barbarian King team members stared at Prince Chen with strange expressions. Jian Wushuang was also looking at Prince Chen. This man, Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. Although he sensed that the man's aura was only at the peak of the false saint realm, his sense of smell from the long years of slaughter and crisis told him that this black-robed young man was not simple. Who are you? The Barbarian King's voice was cold as he stared at Prince Chen. You don't have the right to know my name. Prince Chen appeared a little arrogant. I'll give you 2 choices. First, hand over the Dragon Flame beast's corpse and leave the Dragon Flame world. Second, die. What a joke. The Barbarian King roared, but he did not care about his identity as a true saint. He took a step forward and attacked. As soon as the Barbarian King attacked, the terrifying power immediately pressed down on Prince Chen. At the same time, the huge axe on his back appeared in his hand. Everyone in the Barbarian King team was shocked when they saw the Barbarian King's attack. From what they knew, Mantai was someone who cared about his identity. His opponent was only a peak false saint. Under normal circumstances, Mantai would not attack by himself. Even if he wanted to attack, he would not do his best in the beginning. But now, the Barbarian King's aura soared. A layer of pale golden armor appeared on his body. The giant axe in his hand was also very powerful. Obviously, the Barbarian King had used his full strength and unleashed his strongest battle strength. This was even more surprising. Only Jian Wushuang could understand the Barbarian King's intention. The Barbarian King must have realized that this man is not to be trifled with, so he attacked with his full strength. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and stared at the black-robed young man who was only a peak false saint. Suddenly, the black-robed young man who was also Prince Chen attacked. He only attacked casually, but when the dazzling saber light appeared in the world, everyone in the Barbarian King team was shocked and furious. Chapter 2978, Concealing One's Aura? That slash was too bright and dazzling. However, at the same time, it appeared too dark. It was as if there was no end to the darkness and the sky was boundless. Wherever the slash went, everything seemed like a piece of paper. Not good. The Barbarian King turned pale with fright. Although Jian Wushuang could tell that the Barbarian King was not weak, so he had tried his best from the beginning, he was still shocked when his opponent attacked him. This saber attack carried an earth-shaking power that even he could not help but feel suffocated. Without any hesitation, he immediately used his strongest axe, using all of his power to block this saber attack. Clang! The sound of metal colliding was heard. At the same time, the Barbarian King's body started to shake crazily. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his divine body almost collapsed. The barbarian king did not say anything and immediately retreated. Prince Chen glanced at the barbarian king in surprise. You could take my attack head-on, but your divine body didn't collapse. You're not bad. Die. A stern shout suddenly sounded, and two figures appeared behind Prince Chen at some point in time. These two figures were none other than Puyu and Shuedong King. Both of them had the battle power of a true saint. When they saw that Prince Chen's strength was extraordinary, they immediately launched a sneak attack to kill him. However, Prince Chen had already noticed it. Ridiculous. His Highness Chen smiled faintly and casually waved the battle saber in his hand. It was like a black moon that directly covered both Puyu and Shuedong King. The black moon contained a shocking blade intent. Puyi's divine body immediately collapsed from that. As for Shuedong King, he only possessed the combat strength of a true saint. He was not a true saint and had yet to control his undying body. Once his divine body collapsed, he would definitely die. Fortunately, Shuedong King had obtained 50 million sacred elixirs in one go. He had used them to exchange for many treasures from Lord Tianshou, including a powerful protective treasure. Because of this protective treasure, he survived the attack and did not die immediately. However, he also spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood in a row. He could not be more miserable. Shuedong King. Jian Wushuang's expression changed and he immediately stepped forward. He did not care who died in the Barbarian King team, but Shuedong King had a good relationship with him. Brother Heavenly Marquis. Shuedong King's face was pale. He was so weak that he could barely stand. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and said in a deep voice, "This man is too strong. We can't fight him. It's up to you." "Okay." Jian Wushuang nodded and then looked at Prince Chen. Prince Chen's target was the corpse of the dragon flame beast. After destroying the divine body of Puyu and severely injuring Shuedong King, he had already charged toward the Barbarian King again. He could see that the Barbarian King was the strongest in the Barbarian King team. 80% of the corpse of the dragon flame beast was beaten up by the Barbarian King. Boom, boom. Facing the terrifying power of Prince Chen, the Barbarian King could not resist at all. In just a moment, his body collapsed and began to reassemble for the first time. Prince Chen stood at the place where the Barbarian King's body reassembled. He waited for his body to finish reassembling before he attacked again and caused the Barbarian King's body to collapse for the second time. But at this moment, whoosh, a figure suddenly came from the void next to him. His Highness Chen glanced at the void next to him and found that the aura coming from the person who came to kill him was only that of a divine master. A divine master? His Highness Chen had a strange look on his face. However, at the same time that this divine master moved, the god power aura on his body suddenly soared. At the same time, a large amount of golden god power condensed behind him, forming a 30,000 feet tall golden emperor phantom. The golden eyes of the golden emperor phantom looked down on everything, causing Prince Chen to be a little surprised. The 7-star secret technique, the Heaven Punisher, and the 9 luminary star armor had all been used. An ice-cold sword light flew over like an arc of lightning. Prince Chen did not care at first. He just waved his right hand, and the battle saber in his hand mercilessly descended. This saber also contained great power, enough to easily kill a peak false saint. Even an ordinary first-level true saint's divine body would probably collapse under this saber. Using such a saber to kill a supreme god was simply overkill. But in the end, clang, the sound of metal colliding rang out. His Highness Chen actually felt his right hand sink. This was because it was affected by a huge force. Prince Chen raised his head in surprise and saw a cold gray mask. Humph! With a low shout, Prince Chen swept his saber essence and moved his body instantly. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. As if teleporting, Prince Chen moved through the void. The strange and dark saber light appeared behind Jian Wushuang and slashed toward his head. However, the saber light did not touch anything solid. After image. Prince Chen was shocked. He had already noticed that a large number of sword shadows were attacking him. Prince Chen also drew his saber instantly. Clang, 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 clang. In the blink of an eye, dozens of metal-like sounds were heard in the void. Every time they collided, a surge of divine power burst out. In the surrounding void, the Barbarian King team members, including the Barbarian King and Puyu, whose divine bodies had been reconstructed, were also shocked. This speed, fast, too fast. What a terrifying speed. Previously, the captain also burst out his full speed, but now the speed burst out by the black-robed young man and Heavenly Sword Marquis is at least 10 times faster than the captain's full speed. Moreover, the power unleashed by the two of them. The members of the Barbarian King team could clearly sense the terrifying power contained in the sword light and saber shadow. The power of any saber move was ridiculously strong. Whoosh, whoosh. In the void, the two figures who had exchanged more than 100 head-on blows finally pulled away. A strange light flashed in Prince Chen's eyes as he stared at Jian Wushuang with bright eyes. It seems that I was wrong. I thought you were just a divine master, but now it seems that you are the most powerful expert on this team. Your battle strength is probably at the peak of a rank 1 true saint. However, your ability to hide your aura is really amazing. I can't see through it at all. Hide your aura? Jian Wushuang smiled wickedly. He did not hide his aura at all. His true realm was only that of a divine master. However, His Highness Chen thought that he was too strong and was beyond the realm of a divine master, so he thought that he was just hiding his aura. Chapter 2979, Second Level True Saint. I thought this mission was not challenging at all, but now it seems that I'm lucky enough to meet you, which makes this mission a little more interesting. Prince Chen grinned, his figure suddenly swayed. Whoosh. Even Jian Wushuang could only see a flash of black light. So fast. He's even faster than before. Jian Wushuang was shocked. At the same time, he found that His Highness Chen had already appeared beside him, and a beautiful saber light lit up. The saber light was gorgeous and colorful, leaving a vast saber river in the void. The saber river was boundless, but it was exuding a terrifying power. This saber, Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. He could clearly sense that the power of this saber was much stronger than the many saber lights that Prince Chen had displayed before. This saber had completely exceeded the scope of a first-rank true saint. Humph! With a cold snort, Jian Wushuang immediately made his move. Boundless divine power surged out from his body, and endless sword essence gathered in the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. As he swung his sword, a large number of spacetime blades with sword shadows immediately emerged clearly, forming a huge blade storm in the blink of an eye. It was the 9th move of spacetime swordsmanship, Storm. It was also the strongest sword move that Jian Wushuang had created so far. In the past 80 years, as Jian Wushuang's understanding of spacetime rules and sword principle improved, the power of the first move of Storm also greatly increased. The great sword Storm had completely covered the void in front of him. However, the brilliant blade river directly swept past, and the sword Storm directly collapsed from the center. Jian Wushuang's sword move also collapsed instantly. In terms of absolute arts, the Storm move that I created is ultimately too low level. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. After the brilliant blade river destroyed the sword Storm, it continued to attack him, forcing him to continuously retreat. It took him a long time to stop. However, after he stopped, he waved his hand. Swish, 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 swish. Streaks of cyan streamers rushed out. These cyan streamers shuttled through the void rapidly and then floated in front of Jian Wushuang. These gray streamers were cyan longswords. They were Star Luo swords. There were a total of 18 Star Luo swords. Each of them emitted the aura of a third-grade superior holy treasure. Condense. As Jian Wushuang uttered the word, the 18 Star Luo swords immediately condensed together at the fastest speed. In an instant, rumble, an earth-shaking rumble sounded, and a huge spiral tunnel that emitted the power of endless reincarnation rules appeared between heaven and earth. This spiral tunnel was like the reincarnation tunnel that led to reincarnation, mysterious, vast, and unfathomable. However, in the reincarnation tunnel, a brilliant green light was faintly discernible. Go! Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold, and the faintly discernible green light in the reincarnation tunnel suddenly shot out. The green light was extremely long and carried a huge green tail. It was dozens of meters long, but it was not large in size, but it was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it had already appeared in front of Prince Chen. 5th level of the reincarnation sword formation, Saint Beheading. Prince Chen's expression became a little grave as he seemed to have seen the extraordinary nature of this sword formation. Immediately, he swung the battle blade in his hand. With this swing, endless darkness was directly covered over. Clang. A low and deep sound of metal colliding sounded. The reincarnation sword formation formed by the 18 Star Luo swords paused for a moment before it was immediately sent flying backwards. However, Prince Chen's body suddenly sank. His right arm, which was holding the saber, sank and he took 3 steps back. This sword formation is so powerful. Prince Chen was shocked. Again. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. Under the control of his will, the samsara sword formation, which had been sent flying, once again turned into a cyan-colored flowing light and shot out. Boom. Boom. The cyan light and the huge cyan tail appeared in front of His Highness Chen again. Haha, good timing. This is interesting. His Highness Chen was not surprised. His divine power surged and his aura immediately rose. Then he charged out with his saber and fought head-on with the reincarnation sword formation. At the same time, His Highness Chen collided with the reincarnation sword formation. Jian Wushuang tightened his grip on the Blood Mountain sword, and a supreme sword essence suddenly rose. This sword essence was supreme like the ruler of sword principle dominating the world. With the help of the sword essence, Jian Wushuang's battle strength instantly soared to a new level. He glanced at Prince Chen with a bright light in his eyes. Kill? With a low shout, Jian Wushuang dashed out in an instant. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Numerous cold and sharp sword lights were directly displayed in Jian Wushuang's hands. He had already used many secret skills, and now he had guided the sword essence. His battle strength and essence realm had reached their peak. Each of the sword lights displayed was ridiculously strong and astonishingly fast. The densely packed sword lights crazily attacked Prince Chen. Although Prince Chen's strength was shocking, he did not dare to ignore Jian Wushuang's sword lights. He had to spare a lot of energy to resist them. However, under Jian Wushuang's control, the reincarnation sword formation also attacked him time and time again. The reincarnation sword formation contained terrifying power, and even he did not dare to underestimate it. Prince Chen was embarrassed. Dang, 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 clang. Only to see a continuous sound from the battlefield from the middle of the transmission. Barbarian King team of people, but have been staring blankly. Isn't that a little too strong? He's too strong. The black-robed youth who used the saber has terrifying saber techniques, and his comprehension of the laws of darkness has reached an unbelievable level. Although he's only a peak false saint, his battle strength has definitely surpassed that of a first-rank true saint. Yes, he definitely has the battle strength of a second-rank true saint. A peak false saint has battle strength comparable to a rank 2 true saint? Where did this monster come from? The members of the Barbarian King team could not help exclaiming in surprise. However, if the strength displayed by Prince Chen only shocked them, then it would be completely unbelievable. However, Jian Wushuang, who fought with Prince Chen in a head-on battle and even had a slight advantage, was completely incredible. After all, Jian Wushuang was only a divine master. Heavenly Sword Marquis. I think I'm dreaming. It's impossible. It's impossible. I've never seen a divine master who could fight with a rank 2 true saint. Unless he hid his aura. Chapter 2980, Fierce Battle Hiding His Aura? Right at this moment, everyone in the Barbarian King team began to doubt whether Jian Wushuang was hiding his aura. It could not be helped. The battle strength that Jian Wushuang displayed was too terrifying. It was already comparable to a second-rank true saint. How could he only be a divine master with such terrifying battle strength? It was not just the Barbarian King team. Outside the Dragon Flame world, the triangular-shaped man in the Dark Temple and his 6 men in black were gathered together. In the mirror image in front of them, Jian Wushuang and Prince Chen were fighting head-on. The two of them were engaged in a heated battle, and it was obvious that Prince Chen was slightly below them. How is this possible? Among the experts of the 12 teams, there is actually someone who is on par with Prince Chen and even has a slight advantage? You must be joking. The man in the triangular helmet and his 6 subordinates were stunned. What really stunned them was the divine power aura that Jian Wushuang emitted. Divine Master, this man is just a divine master? A black-clothed man exclaimed. No, it can't be a divine master. He must have deliberately concealed his aura. Quick, find out who this man is and his specific realm. The man in the triangular helmet ordered. Yes. A black-clothed man answered immediately and immediately handed a piece of information to the man in the triangular helmet. We've investigated it clearly. This person is called Heavenly Sword Marquis. He and a peak false saint in his team, named Shuedong King, came from the 385th layer. According to the information, Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed only at the Divine Master level, the black-clothed man said respectfully. He is indeed only at the Divine Master level? The man in the triangular helmet was stunned. The few black-clothed men were also at a loss. In the beginning Divine Realm, geniuses were as numerous as the clouds. They were all clear about this point. For example, His Highness Chen was clearly a peak false saint. Moreover, he had just broken through not long ago, yet his battle prowess was comparable to a second-level true saint. This kind of talent could be considered to be the best in the entire beginning divine realm. That was why he was qualified to join the Heaven and Earth Palace. He would become a prince of the Heaven and Earth Palace. However, no matter how heaven-defying Prince Chen was, he was still a peak false saint. The difference between a peak false saint and a second-level true saint was only 2 levels. They could still accept it. However, the Heavenly Sword Marquis who appeared in front of them and could contend against Prince Chen was only a divine master. There was a difference of 3 realms between a divine master and a second-level true saint. There was a huge difference between them. How could they accept this? Yes, sir. A black-robed man looked at the man in the triangular helmet carefully. Quick, contact the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Union and tell them that we have found a super monster. A super monster that is even stronger than Chen. No, it is 10 or even 100 times stronger than your Chen. The eyes of the man in the triangular helmet shone with an unprecedented light. Send the message. Yes. The black-clothed men immediately sent the message while trembling. The man in the triangular helmet stared at the mirror image in front of him. In the mirror image, Jian Wushuang and His Highness Chen were already fighting head-on. Clang, 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 clang. The two had been fighting crazily hundreds of times in the void. Whoosh, whoosh. The 2 figures finally separated again. Haha, awesome, awesome. Wearing a black robe and holding a saber, His Highness Chen's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He did not change his expression at all because he was slightly at a disadvantage in the fierce battle. As for Jian Wushuang, he looked very serious. This guy is just a peak false saint, but his battle strength is so amazing. I have perfectly displayed the 5th level of the reincarnation sword formation, Saint Slayer, and my own sword skills. But when I fought with him, I only gained a slight advantage. I can see that he has more powerful skills that he hasn't used yet, Jian Wushuang murmured. He had lived for 2 lifetimes and had lived until now. He had fought countless battles with others and had encountered countless dangers and tribulations. His intuition had always been very accurate. Right now, he felt that this black-robed young man in front of him should still have some tricks up his sleeve. As expected, this black-robed young man, His Highness Chen, moved once again. You, come and receive another strike from me. His Highness Chen's voice shook the sky and reverberated with a rumble. While he was speaking, he had already raised the saber in his hand high up. When he raised it, a powerful saber intent instantly started to gather in his saber. There was also a large amount of black air flowing out from his divine body, causing the void around him to turn completely dark. Even his eyes became pitch black and deep, like the stars in the sky and earth. Standing there, His Highness Chen had not swung his saber yet, but the terrifying saber essence and power had already suffocated the experts of the Barbarian King team around the battlefield. It was also quiet in the sky and earth. This saber move, Jian Wushuang stared at His Highness Chen with a hint of shock in his eyes. He could feel the shocking power contained in the saber. This power made him a little shocked. Die. Prince Chen finally attacked. He waved the saber in his hand. The world was still calm, but under this tranquility, a Milky Way swept out directly. This Milky Way came from the 9 heavens. It was beautiful, magnificent, and majestic. As soon as it appeared, the experts of the Barbarian King team were instantly intoxicated and could not extricate themselves for a long time. Even Jian Wushuang had never seen such a beautiful and intoxicating saber light. He was almost absent-minded, but after experiencing countless life-and-death battles, he was able to remain absolutely rational. When the Milky Way attacked, he immediately made his move. Swish! The 18-star Luo swords exerted their power to the maximum. The power of the Samsara sword formation suddenly soared and pierced through. But the result was bang! With a loud sound, the Samsara sword formation shook crazily and directly collapsed, turning back into 18 divine swords. Sure enough, the power of this move is too strong. The Samsara sword formation can't withstand it. I'm afraid that even if I use Storm, I won't be able to block this move head-on, Jian Wushuang muttered, but his eyes were exceptionally calm. Seeing that the beautiful Milky Way was about to reach him, Jian Wushuang gently raised his hand. Buzz. The power of time and space suddenly burst out. Space-Time Divine Skill, 1-point Heaven Skill. Chapter 2981, Heaven and Earth Palace. Qian the Heaven-designated skill could freeze time and space for a short period of time. This move was one of Jian Wushuang's trump cards. With Jian Wushuang's current divine power and comprehension of the space-time rules, ordinary immortal saints would not be able to resist this move. However, Jian Wushuang did not use heaven-designated skills to attack Prince Chen. Instead, he used it to attack the dazzling Milky Way, which was the saber technique Prince Chen used. Was affected by the heaven-designated skill, the space-time around the dazzling Milky Way froze, and the Milky Way stopped in its tracks. Although the time-space stagnation had disappeared in an instant, and the brilliant Milky Way continued to sweep out, Jian Wushuang had already dodged to the side. Whoosh! The brilliant Milky Way passed through the void where Jian Wushuang had been, but it did not touch the corner of Jian Wushuang's clothes. Jian Wushuang easily dodged the most powerful move of His Highness Chen. Awesome! Chen stared at Jian Wushuang with a gleam in his eyes. My move is not only powerful but also locked onto him during the process. Logically, he shouldn't have been able to dodge my move. He had to face my move head-on, but he dodged it? It's the secret skill he just used. His Highness Chen was very knowledgeable, so he could see the reason at a glance. He just used a secret skill, causing the space-time where my saber light was to pause for a short time. This pause also caused me to lose my lock on him, so he was able to dodge it easily. What a strange secret skill. His Highness Chen praised in his heart. What he admired was the secret skill Jian Wushuang just used. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's face was also extremely solemn. As he had expected, Prince Chen had hidden his trump card. Just like that saber move, the power was really terrifying. If he did not have the heaven-designated skill, he would probably have to take out the mountain and river design to block it. Whoosh! Prince Chen moved forward again, but he only took 2 steps before he stopped in front of Jian Wushuang. Heaven and Earth Palace, Chen. Prince Chen directly told Jian Wushuang his name and origin. Heaven and Earth Palace? Jian Wushuang's heart skipped a beat, but he also understood. He had long guessed that this black-robed young man had an extraordinary background and was likely from the 3 palaces of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Now it seemed that this was the case. A peak false saint with the battle strength of a second-rank true saint, this is the genius of the 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and it's only the lowest level of Heaven and Earth Palace. Jian Wushuang secretly sighed. He had met Long Yun and Shuiyu, who also claimed to be from the Palace of Heaven and Earth. However, he only knew about Long Yun and Shuiyu, but he did not know how strong they were. After all, they had never shown their true strength. Only Shuiyu showed some of his strength and easily killed a rank 1 true saint, but that was nothing. Now that he had seen Chen with his own eyes and witnessed his strength, Jian Wushuang knew how high the level of the genius of the Heaven and Earth Palace was. Heavenly Sword Marquis, Jian Wushuang said his name. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you are very strong, really strong. With you I can't kill the rest of your team. It seems that I can't get the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse. His Highness Chen sighed. Chen, you want the body of the Dragon Flame Beast for the mission of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, right? Jian Wushuang looked at him. Yes. His Highness Chen nodded directly. As expected. Jian Wushuang was not surprised at all. He had just heard His Highness Chen mention the word mission, so he had guessed the origin of His Highness Chen. The mission I received this time is to come to the Dragon Flame world and snatch the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse in your hands. There were a total of 12 teams in the Dragon Flame world that originally had the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse, but during these 12 days I've already found 8 teams and defeated all of them. The Dragon Flame Beast's corpse in their hands naturally fell into my hands. Originally, you were the 9th team that I found, so the result should be the same as the other 8 teams. But I didn't expect there to be an expert like you in your team. It seems that I won't be able to complete the task this time, Prince Chen said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was stunned, but everyone in the Barbarian King team was shocked. They did not know until now that there were so many teams that had accepted the task of killing the Dragon Flame Beast. Moreover, since those teams could kill the Dragon Flame Beast and obtain its corpse, their battle strength would not be much weaker than their teams. But in the end, 8 teams had been defeated by this expert called Chen. They had no doubt that their squads would have followed in the footsteps of the 8 squads if it were not for Jian Wushuang. Chen, did you just say 100%? Does that mean that even if you don't get the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse, you will only lose some of your mission quotas? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, although this mission is not very challenging for me. After all, I have to deal with 12 squads at once, so it is inevitable that I will fall behind. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance won't judge me as a failure just because I have 1 or 2 less Dragon Flame Beast corpses. They will only judge my mission completion quota. Now, I definitely won't get the Dragon Flame Beast corpses in your team, so I can only complete 90% of the mission quota. Of course, I will only get 90% of the mission reward in the end, Prince Chen said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. It's only 10% of the mission reward. It's nothing to me. To be able to fight with an expert like you is already a big harvest for me. Prince Chen had already put his saber back into its scabbard. He crossed his arms and looked at Jian Wushuang. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I'll remember you. If we have the chance to meet again, we'll fight again. Goodbye. After saying that, Chen turned around and left. Jian Wushuang and the Barbarian King team watched Chen leave quietly. No one dared to chase after him. Chen from the Heaven and Earth Palace? Interesting. Jian Wushuang smiled, but he was a little curious. He was curious about the three palaces of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. After witnessing the strength of the three palaces of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, Jian Wushuang was naturally curious about the three palaces. However, despite his curiosity, Jian Wushuang still did not plan to join the three palaces. After all, he had too many concerns. Chapter 2982. Was he really a divine master? Outside the Dragon Flame world in the Dark Temple. He has retreated. His Highness Chen has chosen to retreat. He has no choice. Heavenly Sword Marquis is no weaker than him. His Highness Chen has already used his most powerful move, but he hasn't been able to hurt the Heavenly Sword Marquis at all. With such an expert, how could His Highness Chen have the chance to kill the experts of that team and get the corpse of the Dragon Flame Beast? You're right. The 6 black-clothed men were talking leisurely. They all knew that Prince Chen had tried his best. It was not because he was not strong but because Jian Wushuang was too strong. The appearance of Heavenly Sword Marquis was completely unexpected. It's normal that Prince Chen could not complete the 100% task quota. After that, we have to report this matter to the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and let them handle this matter in person, the man in the triangular helmet said to himself. In addition, Heavenly Sword Marquis. In the Dragon Flame world, the 9th team that His Highness Chen found ended in failure. However, he was not discouraged and continued to look for the 10th team. Obviously, there was no expert like Jian Wushuang in the other teams, so there was no room for him to fight against His Highness Chen. His team was directly defeated, so the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse naturally fell into his hands. In a flash, a month had passed. In a remote plane in the Dragon Flame world. Someone from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has sent me a message. The 1-month deadline has passed. Our mission has been completed, so we can leave now, the Barbarian King said with a pleasantly surprised smile on his face. Everyone in the Barbarian King team was also pleasantly surprised. After all, the reward for the second phase of the mission was 200 million sacred elixirs. Now that the mission was completed, the 200 million sacred elixirs would belong to their team. This was an astronomical figure for them, so they were naturally overjoyed. Of course, the reason why our Barbarian King team was able to complete the second phase of the mission is mainly because of the existence of the Heavenly Marquis brothers, the Barbarian King added. Yes, it's all thanks to the Heavenly Marquis brothers. The others also looked at Jian Wushuang with awe in their eyes. They knew very well that if it were not for Jian Wushuang, they would not have been able to complete the second stage of the mission. Even when Prince Chen came to kill them, many people in their team would have died, including the strongest one, their captain, the Barbarian King, would probably die on the spot. Everyone, I propose that half of the 200 million sacred elixirs be given to the Heavenly Marquis brother. How about it? The Barbarian King said. No problem. I agree. The second stage of the mission can only be completed by the Heavenly Marquis brother. It's only right that he gets half of the reward. Everyone in the Barbarian King team nodded in agreement. Heavenly Marquis brothers, what do you think? The Barbarian King looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, since everyone is so polite, he'll accept the 100 million sacred elixirs. Seeing this, the Barbarian King and the others also smiled. Let's go and hand in the mission. The 8 members of the Barbarian King team directly headed out of the Dragon Flame world with smiles on their faces. In the void outside the Dragon Flame world, in the dark shrine. Whoosh! A black-robed figure appeared out of thin air in the shrine. Welcome, Your Highness Chen. The triangular armored man and the 6 black-robed men under him had already bowed and waited. That black-robed figure was naturally His Highness Chen, who had just returned from the Dragon Flame world. All of you stand up. His Highness Chen waved his hand and everyone immediately stood up. You all saw the process of this mission, right? Princess Chen looked at the triangular-shaped man in the helmet. We saw it. The triangular-shaped man immediately said, this mission, because of our negligence, there were some unforeseen circumstances, which caused Princess Chen to not be able to complete 100% of the mission quota. However, we have already reported the truth of what happened here. I believe that the lords of the 3 palaces will reasonably determine your mission quota based on the actual situation here. Yes. His Highness Chen nodded slightly. I'm not worried about the mission quota. The less the less. What I want to say is that Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed quite strong, and his methods of concealing his aura are truly brilliant. I've fought with him for so long, but I haven't been able to see his specific realm at all. Do you know what his realm is exactly? Is he a first or second rank true saint, or is he a peak false saint like me? His Highness Chen was indeed curious. He had always thought that Jian Wushuang must have been concealing his aura, and he also had his own speculation about Jian Wushuang's true realm. In his opinion, Jian Wushuang should be a true saint. Perhaps he was only a first-rank true saint, but it was unlikely that he was a second-rank true saint, because he could see that Jian Wushuang's divine power was far inferior to a second-rank true saint. However, it was also possible that Jian Wushuang was just a first-level false saint like him. If that was the case, then Jian Wushuang's talent was no less than his. However, in his opinion, there were very few geniuses like him who could enter the heaven and earth palace of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. There were very few geniuses like him in the entire divine beginning world. It was very unlikely that a genius like him could appear anywhere in the endless territories. Therefore he did not think that Jian Wushuang was a peak false saint. Hearing what Prince Chen said, the man in the triangular helmet and the 6 men in black behind him looked at each other with strange expressions. What? Say something. Is Heavenly Sword Marquis really a peak false saint? Prince Chen frowned slightly. He saw the changes in the expressions of the men in the triangular helmet. Your Highness Chen. The man in the triangular helmet hesitated for a moment before he finally spoke. According to the information we received from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, Heavenly Sword Marquis should be just a divine master. What did you say? Chen immediately looked at the man in the triangular helmet. His eyes were filled with a strange light. Divine master? You said that Heavenly Sword Marquis is only a divine master? An expert who can fight me to a standstill and leave me helpless is only a divine master? Are you playing with me? His Highness Chen's voice was cold, a trace of anger appeared in his eyes. I don't dare. The man in the triangular helmet shook his head repeatedly. Your Highness, according to the information we received from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, this Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed just a supreme being. He once participated in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's assessment as a supreme being. During that assessment he once killed a peak false saint with his supreme being level. At that time, his combat strength had already reached the true saint level. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.